G'day, guys. Welcome back to the Supercoach Swordplay podcast. It is season 4, episode 23. I'm pretty impressed with myself there, boys, because I just did that on the run. We haven't got the visuals up there as usual because we have a very, very, very special guest on with us today. I put a bit of a who am I on Twitter this week, and let's be honest, about 95% of the community got it straight away. Boys, my two brothers, I'm going to introduce you in a sec because, as I mentioned, very, very excited to have this great man on. I met him for the first time maybe a couple of months ago at the Dr. Supercoach catch-up. I've never seen the man before, but as soon as I heard that soothing voice of his, I knew exactly who it was. And he's the great Jimmy, a.k.a. Pig Mentality from the Dr. Supercoach team. Mate, thank you very, very much for joining us. How are you going, legend?
I'm going really well, and thanks for having me, guys. It's a pleasure to be here. And yeah, like I said, it was a really nice time meeting you back in Melbourne for the catch-up DR. And I did like that little cryptic tweet you put out, but one of the hints was something about saving the bacon.
Yes.
So that probably gave it away a little bit.
100%.
But here we are, and it's good to be on with you guys.
Awesome to have you on, and lovely to see your beautiful face as well, mate. We'll get into a bit of a mini season review with you very, very soon, mate. And as we all know, we know what this great man is famous for, the captains. Now, we're going to have a bit of a face-off here tonight. We've got Janath and the great Pig, who are, let's be honest, Spills, the main men that you go to when you're looking to look in your VC and captain choices for the week. So that's going to be a big part of our show, mate. And Spillsy, tell us how you're going, mate. Now, the first thing I noticed there is that you're in a shoe shop for some reason. What's going on with the different setup, mate?
Yeah, so I actually had a really productive day on Sunday. It took me about 5 hours, but shuffled my room around. And 5 hours, Janath, you wouldn't believe it. Full-blown spring clean. So the main reasoning for that is to have the office set up, the computer set up a bit close to the Wi-Fi. So I was looking over last week's vision of the podcast, and I love the fact that we dressed up for it. But I was a bit flat to see that I could barely notice what I was wearing because the quality was terrible. So I hope it. Famous last words. I don't know how it is now. I hope it's good, but that was the main reason for that. And then obviously different part of the room, DR. We got a bit of a shoe collection in the background. So yeah, massive. Got a lot of pairs of Nikes just lying around. So yeah, stuff that people may not know about me. Yeah, love the shoe collection, mate.
Yep, Spills has a foot fetish, everyone. Just so we'll put that out there.
I wouldn't go to say that, but I do love my sneakers.
All right, sorry, mate. What I liked about that what you just said there, Spills, was the fact that you were looking over the vision. What a professional this man is, Janath. Looking over the podcast vision, just like Kalsher and Gunston there from Hawthorne. Very, very impressed, Spills, that you are looking to improve each and every week, my friend. Janath, how you going, buddy? The Blue Baggers, worried that they might not even get up against the Eagles, but at the end of the day, my friend, got the job done in
it was
pretty strong fashion.
Very impressive performance. I think for the first time in a couple of weeks, I could really tell that they were playing for each other, and that's really a team environment. That's what you want. And Captain Cripps, if there's one play that you just knew, and I think both. It's quite interesting to bring it up because I know looking at Pig's rankings and now third man up ranked, so we both had him as a pod captain option just for the fact that as a captain in a team under duress, no backs against the wall, playing half a VFL team, he was always going to stand up. He's just I'd say he's the best captain in the league. You guys may have your own opinion. I may be biased.
Merritt plays golf.
Oh, come on. He wouldn't be able to tie his shoes up, mate.
We had this last year, and how'd that go?
Oh, we're talking about Cripper here, not Walsh. We're talking about Cripper.
You're talking about captains. Spills, 0 Brownlows. Janath 1, Lockie 2. That's all that I'll say. But he did. He just got everyone on his back, didn't he,
Put him
mate?
on the back,
and what a man
the
he is.
backpack on, and it was a good weekend, and have been looking forward to this one for a while now. So looking to crack into it. How about yourself, DR? How have you been, mate?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Not bad. Just busy at the moment. Just busy. And look, you know how much I love Supercoach. It's a really weird feeling at the moment because you hate when it ends, but it's been a really, really long season and it's almost time to wind up. I'm sort of at that stage now. Finally trade. So I joined the No Trades Club obviously last week. But yeah, it's a funny feeling, isn't it? It's a funny feeling. But very, very keen to get into this episode. The big one before the grand final. So hopefully we can give you some tips about that. And what I think is really important and the best week ever, I think, to get the great pig on is because with no trades left, lots of people know cover rolling with donuts. Getting your VC or your captain right this week for your grand finals is for some people the only way that you can get a bit of a leg up. So great to have you on, mate. Now we will get into things. And unfortunately, Janath, you might just want to start us off here, mate, on a bit of a somber note. The great Sam Landsberger, mate, unfortunately, has just passed away. So thoughts with his family and friends. Can you just, have a little bit of a chat about the great work that Sammy's done, mate?
Yes, I guess we just wanted to address this. We just found out the news before going into record that, well, who I think was one of the most genuine journalists, never looking to be first but making sure that the news that he dropped was off the right integrity, followed up with multiple sources. Just after the Olympics, every single day, looking at the Olympic schedule for the Australians in particular was just something I look forward to every day. And hearing him on the midweek tackle on Fox Footy, it's just one of those things where I guess we just can't take for granted. This is probably the second time this year where we sort of brought that up after sort of the focus we had on mental health a bit earlier this year. But this time, an unfortunate, tragic accident for Sammy. So thoughts are with his friends and family, and we know that he'll definitely be lost to not just his colleagues and his peers, but clearly to the wider public as well, who have been impacted by his work.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been a lot of shout outs on Twitter, and you haven't seen a negative word said about this great man, have you? So as I mentioned, thoughts from everyone in the community with Sam's family and friends, and a great man has been taken away too soon. So thoughts with everyone there, and everyone obviously at the Herald Sun as well. Alrighty, guys, let's get into things now. On a positive note here, boys, we've been able to raise $300 so far for the Royal Children's Hospital Good Friday appeal. And Janath, there are some new orders as well that have just come through. So beanies are on the way in production at the moment. So we'll get them out to you as soon as possible. And that total will certainly rise in the coming weeks.
And very quickly with this, with the summer months approaching and the weather getting a bit warmer, especially here in chilly Melbourne, those T-shirts are going to come in handy. So go online, go to supercoachswordplay.com and get yourself a T-shirt. Swap the beanies for the T-shirts, and perhaps Spillsy maybe working on a collaboration over the summer. I'm hearing Supercoach Swordplay Budgie Smugglers is on the card.
Absolutely.
100%, boys. No,
Any excuse to get the gear off from Spillsy.
100%, boys. I'm all about it.
He loves it. Beautiful, Spillsy. Supercoachswordplay.com if you are interested, guys. And thanks as always for the support. And talk about great support, our friends Taylor and the crew at Speedy Tees. Now, this has been the third week in a row that we've been showing these great things off. But I'll tell you what, with Father's Day coming up, boys, these are the sort of tees that you want. Different styles. We've got the comedy one, dad doing shit down the bottom, which I think would be very appropriate for many of the dads out there. The baseball style tee there, the nice simple one there. So thank you very much for your support, Taylor and the crew, and looking forward to getting some more merch in very, very soon. Boys, let's get into the beef of the Supercoach stuff. It's the Rant reviews. Now, Spillsy, we're going to start with you, mate. Now, you've been a little bit up and down, haven't you, the last sort of 4 or 5 weeks? An interesting week for you. I believe that you did have at least one Krispy Kreme. Tell us about your round in round 23, my man.
Yeah, we definitely had a Krispy Kreme, mate. It was a nothing but a horror show, to be honest. I mean, this is what happens. And Janath always really hot on the bird in the hand is worth more than 2 in a bush, and we actually put that in towards the trade. So would I have liked to have held a Matt Rao, even though he's not that great, and have that last trade to maybe palm off a Houston or a Sheasel? Well, boys, I got both of them. So talk about checking out. I've just about checked out completely now. I'm looking at 2 Krispy Kremes this week. And to be honest, boys, I've barely been on Twitter. Haven't been on Twitter at all. Haven't really looked at anything I think this was the least amount of times I've checked my site over a weekend. Usually I'm pretty hot on that. All I did it for was to see what I think Neil. I checked out what Neil VC'd and then just kept it on Bont. And then I turned it off. So I think I checked once or twice over the week, which is just crazy. So yeah, I'm in a scenario where I'm just almost giving up a little bit, which is a bit sad, but all eyes on to next year. There's nothing we can do, boys. No trades, 2 donuts. So yeah, 2,342. And I only expect to see another red arrow. So yeah, it's a bit doom and gloom, but yourself, DR, you're flying at the moment. You've got 7 defenders, mate. And you don't have Houston. I mean, can I have one, mate? Yeah. Can you spare me one for the week? Oh, crazy stuff.
I'll give you Bailey Dale, mate. That's who
I'll take it. I'll take it over Dawson and Reed. I'll take anything.
Oh, look, it's a bit of a weird flex in some way, but I was a little bit undisciplined last week with getting Sinclair in. The move should have been Dylan Moore, but it is what it is. 24.55. It was pretty much par around my rank, I think. I did go up a few spots here, which is nice. But at one stage, 4 or 5 weeks ago, it was looking likely for that top 250. That's what I was aiming for. But pretty much I just want to stay in the top 1K at the moment. Luckily, no donuts to me this week. I've actually got a couple of blokes as cover. So Day will be my D7 and Mana can be that floating, M9, F7 type bloke as well. So ended up VCing Lockie Neal as well. I wasn't sure, should I VC him? I thought, no, against Collingwood, I'm going to the game, so it'll be really good to watch him live. And lost, I don't know how many points in the scaling. I swear he finished on a 130 plus, but not happy with the scaling there. And decided to roll the dice and go with the Bont and came out absolutely even Stevens. So couldn't have done much more. Ended up emergencing Grundy and putting Dogger up in the ruck, getting Manor on field and made a total of 1 point there, a 69 over a 68. So little wins, I suppose, but 1 more week to go, boys. The advantage that I've got, I think, here is simply no donuts. There's most teams out there, I think, are looking at least one. So the fact that I've at least got, at this stage, we haven't seen team sheets yet, but looking likely to have a couple of blokes I can loop in a pretty good position for this week anyway. But
it's a great problem to have, man.
Look, it is, mate. It is. But if we are talking about the overall ranks here, Spillsy, I see an overall rank here, 3 digits starting with a 3. Janath, tell us about how you're going, brother.
Yeah, it was a very interesting week given the circumstances. So no Sheasel, no English, no Kerno. I'm not going to say no problems. There was plenty of problems, but there was a couple of heroes that really stood up. I'm going to start firstly with the showdown specialist. I was messaging a couple of blokes, and I just had a feeling that Saki Butters would break the skid of the 3-game Adelaide showdown win and also get his first showdown medal. And geez, what a specimen he is. 156, VC'd, lock it in.
Good boy. That's awesome.
Good man.
But there's a bigger hero, and I'm going to guess who. This guy was the 3rd highest scorer in my team, and he didn't play the week before.
Oh, yeah. He killed me in a very important league. Your friend Joel, I believe. Is this right?
Jolie boy from the clouds.
Seriously?
136.
That's unbelievable.
Humphreys over my Sinclair. I'm thinking, here we go, getting Jackie boy in. He's got Humphreys there. Oh, you joking me, joshing me? I'll lose by 10 points. I'll lose the match up by 10 points. It's just, I'll continue. Sorry, mate. I've just taken over. Oh, spewing on Joel. Where were you when you're in my team, mate? Come on.
I will say, it was pretty kissed. Not going to lie. He hadn't gone above 79 for the season. And he's gone 136 in the prelim. And I'll tell you what, the big one is, there's a very important league, probably more for morale and sort of like just the swordplay potty here is the Squadfather Legends League. And I'm playing JD, who, shout out to him, we'll give him a bigger shout out later. But he's got Captain Cherry. I've got a 20-point lead, LDU, Simpkin, and Fraser. And it was, in the 4th quarter, it was a 10-point difference. Oh. And then Jolie boy, LD, and Simpkin put a quarter together. The boys got us home. and we're playing in the granny. So
Very nice work.
Kudos to him. Probably saved a rank
Bloody oath,
fall.
mate.
And that was with one donut. So that was the week. I'm not going to talk too much, but yeah, Saki Butters, Joel Frazier, kudos to you boys. And also Tom Green, a really good stretch of form recently. I'm really happy with how he's going and looks to have cleaned up his disposal at sort of the expense of more disposals. So it's sort of been working out, I reckon.
Beautiful, mate. Well, if we look at the top of the pod, unless there's an absolute miracle this week, Janath, I think you're going to stay at number one, currently second, and Spillsy, you're going to come home this week. Don't be about the donuts, mate. Your pods are going to come to fire and send you home with a nice victory, I think, mate. So, boys, this is what I'm looking forward to. We're going to have a quick chat with our special guest, the great Pig. Now, Pig, we're sort of going to give you the floor here, mate. So we know that really this has been the first year that you've really done a lot of content with the Dr. Supercoach crew. It's always been the big three, obviously Pistol, JB, and Cheese. I've been lucky enough to obviously meet all the crew, did a collab with JB for the Port team preview, and it was funny. I was almost nervous because the Dr. Supercoach crew are like my heroes, like the Michael Jordans of Supercoach, let's be honest, and they could not have selected a better man to make the threesome a foursome now. Mate, tell us a little bit about, how about your history of Supercoach, mate? So how long have you been playing? And tell us a little bit about this season in 2024, mate.
Yeah, thanks. Well, look, I've loved joining the Dr. Supercoach boys as well. They've made it so easy. The three of them, like you said, are very giving and generous and absolute legends. And the actual community they've got there in Slack as well. There's over 600 people that kind of in this, I guess, gigantic group chat with all the channels where, you know, we've got a running club or we've got a book club or we've got people talking about NBL or golf, whatever it is. So, yeah, I've loved that side of it. And to be able to kind of, you know, give my advice and thoughts back to the community, just to the general Twitter or YouTube community, has been really, really nice as well. And received received a lot of good and nice feedback from everyone. So,
and
like,
deserved.
I know we saw it early in the year when everyone kind of reached out to Spills as well. We've got it's a really, really good kind of community here that Supercoach is generating. So really happy to be a part of that. And being able to, I guess, do my bit to help people with their rankings. But my history, I actually just played for leagues for a long time with some of my friends from high school. We had a league going, but last year, quite a few of them dropped out and we kind of didn't keep the league going. Well, it is, but there's only two of us in it now. Someone went to America, someone went up to Queensland, kind of lost interest a bit.
Like the Sam,
so I said, all right, I'll have a go.
Go to their different directions and,
you know. So I said, what do I do then? So I essentially started a Twitter account and said, oh, well, let's go for rank. I don't know what this involves, but I played it the same way as I was playing League, which was, you know, being quite conservative with the trades, not trading your premiums, holding your rookies a bit longer, saving trades to the end. This is last year. Came home really well, ended up finishing 95th overall, kind of charged that top 100 down. And I think that tactic worked really well for me last year. And at that same time, like, I was tweeting a lot of things out, doing a lot of kind of different stats that others weren't doing. Like, one of my big things, I was looking at the ruck analysis, and I found it quite easy to predict what a ruckman would score based on the ruckman they're against, because it's literally a 1v1 battle. I was kind of having a lot of success predicting kind of the ruckman scores. So I guess that kind of caught the eye of the Dr. Supercoach guys. And then Pistol and I actually met up because we're both in New South Wales, went to a game, met up at a game and got along. So the rest is kind of history with that. But this year's been a bit different, a bit more difficult. I think Pistol and I have talked about it a bit. It's the first year being in the public eye, I guess, and having the perceived pressure of what, you know, you think people looking at your team, even they're probably not. No one probably goes and looks at my team, but I'm always thinking, like, what if? So I made quite a few dumb decisions that have really, like, tanked my rank this year and really went away from what was successful for me last year. I did things like I tried to anti-pod Sheasel all year. Oh, actually, I started with him and then traded him out when he moved forward, thinking, oh, I'll antipod him, and then when he doesn't score well, I'll have a leg up, and just
Hey,
just
you're
silly
winning
things like
now,
that.
Pig.
Well, I mean,
that's right, Janath.
Yeah.
my defender that's in his place is also out, so it doesn't help. But essentially, like antipodding Sheasel, I had the chance between Warner and Neil. Everyone was getting on after their bye. Everyone was getting on Neil. I said, let's go Warner for a bit different, because if Neil doesn't work, I'll be sweet. I never would have done that kind of stuff last year, and it's just that kind of perceived pressure. But I've taken a lot of learnings, and I think I'll bounce back and have a really good year next year, hopefully. But it's quite interesting. Just Janath and I were talking, off air before we started recording, and Janath said you've potentially experienced something in your first time in the spotlight as well. It's kind of a bit difficult at times.
Yeah, I guess the thing with that was, like, I did well, but still I played differently to like the most successful year I had. So it's like, because you don't want to say something or go with a pick that's a bit rogue or a bit poddish and it doesn't work out. Because then you were like, oh, I brought in this player, you recommended this player. Like, you can't deal with that sort of burden as a content creator. But I think the more and more comfortable you come with that, and the fact is, if you back up a player and you justify that pick with your data that you found, and it's not just off a whim, then most of the time, either the pick works out, or if the pick doesn't work out, it's for a reason that you couldn't have predicted, or it's a reason like an injury or a sudden role change. And most people understand that. So I think you've really come to sort of embrace that as well, Pig, especially with your captain calls. Most of them are pretty sound and spot on because you've done the research to back it up.
Yeah, and that part of like my actual team season and ranking has been poor, but I think the advice I've been able to give other people in terms of like, I can't do this with my team, but I would recommend you do this, has generally been worked out pretty well. And as you said, the captains in particular, I've been really happy with those this year. And it's nice to be on with you, because between, I guess, me and you guys at the third man up, it's kind of the main sources that people go looking for Supercoach captains. So it'll be good to kind of chat through, how we both come to those conclusions.
Ross and I were actually talking about that, Pig, a couple of days ago. We're like, for an average Supercoach, it's almost the best 25 minutes you can have for captaincy, because obviously you do it in an audio way, and you're saying the data, but for someone that may not have as much time, they can just spruik through like a visual form, just go through, see all the numbers, and then you can sort of align the two and come to your own decision. Like, you can see your rankings, you can see our rankings. Most of the time there's a big overlap there. Sometimes we place a bit more emphasis on intangibles compared to data, and so it's actually a really good thing. And I think that you put together, I think we place a really good emphasis on captaincy, and I think that's, I don't know, we don't want to talk on others' behalf, but DR and Spills, do you guys find like taken together, it's like just the best of both worlds?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
If there's anyone that ever asked me, what do you do with your captains, I say, see what Pig says and then have a look at the third man up.
That's it.
Both sides as well. And it's literally the two go-tos each and every week when it comes to your captains. There is nowhere else you need to go apart from the great man Pig and the third man up. It's as simple as that. So what you guys do is absolutely elite. And just very quickly touching on before, I suppose, that pressure being a content creator, I still find that myself as well. I find it a lot easier now, but I think back to a stage in the stock market video this week, where the week before I watched Rolly Garcia live, and I said, this bloke is just undroppable, killed it, so much energy. And then he's omitted the next week. Bevo didn't see it the same way that I did. So, you put yourself out there, you make some really good calls, you make some bad calls. But at the end of the day, I think that one thing we can say is that it takes a little bit of courage to put your opinions out there in a public forum, because it can come back to bite you, I suppose, a little bit. But, we don't ever try to give the wrong advice or bad advice. Usually when it comes to third man up, it's great anyway. But sorry, mate, what were you going to say?
We never gatekeep. So it's like, if we truly put it out there, if we believe that a pick is good for a reason, like, we don't just hold them hostage for ourselves, sort of thing. I think it's such a blessing being a content creator in this way in the Supercoach community.
Absolutely. And as I said before, could not have picked anyone better to join the number one Supercoach community in the world, in Dr. Supercoach. All right, great chat, Pig. Now I'm going to have a quick rant, boys. Now, I had so much to rant about. It was going to be about Brisbane's kicking and just capitulation the last couple of weeks. It was going to be about Joey Danaher being a little bit selfish, Zach Bailey and his complete lack of awareness. I don't know how he got run down on the weekend. It was going to be about the scaling, losing how many points from Mike Lockiniel, VC 130 plus. Sammy Walsh lost a point. Just so many things to rant about. However, thinking about this great man here on the screen. Now, Spillsy, you're obviously an Essendon man, but I've had, I don't know the bloke personally, but I have met him on a few occasions. I know he's come to my school a few times. He is a ripping human, this bloke. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say a bad word about Dyson Heppel. No. And Spillsy, now, mathematically, mate, maybe last week you were still in with a slight chance. Come on, mate. Your season was done and dusted. Everyone knows it. What do you think about this, Spills? Because I think I'm really, really upset here. You may have a different take, mate, which is perfectly fine, sorry, and I'll absolutely respect that. But I was just so shattered for this bloke. I would have loved to see him out there in front of his home fans, just give it one more crack. I know that he would have given it his absolute all. I was shattered for the man. He took it humbly and in great spirit, but who knows, deep down inside, I think that he may have been hurting a little bit. I don't know. He may have said, no, don't play me. Give him a spot to someone else, to a younger player. I'm not too sure. But just on the surface, come on, Brad Scott. What are you doing, mate? This bloke should have deserved a really nice send-off on the field, not just off the field. Your quick thoughts, mate, on that one?
No, 100% agree with you. I mean, everything that Dice has done for the club and just an absolute legend on and off the field. He leads by example. He's great with the kids and it's just a massive role model of mine. I think it will be a little bit of both, DR. I think there'd be him being a little bit selfless, saying, am I in the best 22 and putting the team first before himself. But I think the Bombers need to be a little bit more ruthless and be like, look, mate, you're playing. Like, realistically, we're not really a chance. If we are, we're making up the numbers. We'd love to send you off. And another really good point I'd love to make too, just real quickly, there's plenty of players you can come in for. I mean, how's Wiedemann get a game? How does Kelly get a game? And you got Dice that, I mean, even if he's sub, he can come on and the whole crowd will give him a big cheer.
Imagine the emotion. And like it's been massive.
Absolutely. That could get you over the line, something like that. Yeah, someone like Dyson, he's an important person. He's not just any old player. He's part of the fabric of that football club.
Oh, he is. Yeah, he definitely is. And we're a club that play better off confidence, which sounds kind of weird, but when the atmosphere is good, we tend to play a little bit better. And I think Dice playing would have attracted another at least 10,000 people. If I didn't go to the game, it was a long track for me to watch. Well, it was the inevitable. I always thought we're going to lose, but if Dyson was playing, would have I gone? Maybe. I reckon I might have. I'd love to send him off and I've always loved Dyson. Just a great Bomber person all around. And DR, I'm just about as flat as you were with this one. It broke me heart a little bit, and I'm just worn out. I need to somehow emotionally detach myself from the Bombers for a while because every single year it's the same stuff and just ultimate disappointment. And this is one of many things I've done this year to keep their supporters on the ground. So very disappointing, boys.
Disappointing. Pig, any thoughts quickly on Dice, mate, yourself?
Yeah, look, I'm a Bombers fan and like he's been such a stalwart of the club and got us through some really tough times. And he's just always been so positive and been so great. And like you said, I think he's a genuinely beautiful human being as well. So, I mean, I can see one part of it. If he thought he wasn't best 22, technically there was a chance we could have made finals, but realistically, would have it ever happened? So I can kind of see both sides. But, I would like to have seen a Dyson send-off game. Maybe he gets one this weekend, but, it's in
won't be the same, though, will it? It won't be the same.
Exactly.
Very sad.
You'd love to see him get one, though, wouldn't you? At the same time, I reckon there'd be a fair few people that would actually travel up to support him there. Janath, anything else on Dice you'd like to add, mate, before we get into Spillsy's tweet of the week? And it may actually be a good segue into the tweet of the week, actually.
just one of those players that, as an opposition fan, especially as a Carlton fan, like I've always had tons of respect for Dyson Heppell. I think he was, if I stand correct, I think he was one of the very first Rising Star winners as well.
Yeah, he was.
And
he was.
He
Yeah,
always looked to give back to the kids, and he was just brilliant.
Yes.
He's always had my respect for him and Joel Selwood. Both the two of them together, like I remember, it might have been around the same time, but together they were just brilliant with the Oz kickers. And I understand the rationale, but at the same time, like
Nothing to lose.
If Heppell was out there, he's not going to be any worse than a Kelly, Wiedemann.
He'd be much better.
Yeah.
Menzies, like Menzies as a sub, like
Menzies a shocker. Yeah.
And shout out
that's
to
the
John
call.
Menzies if you're watching, mate.
Good on him.
Shout out to Nicky Martin, 30-3.
Oh,
He's been watching.
our boy, our boy.
Our boy.
Spillsy, your tweet
Yeah.
of the week, my friend.
Yeah. Just real quickly, boys, one more thing to say about Dice, but I love that he come in and captained the club after probably the worst period in history, like the drug scandal, the 36 players or something ineligible to play in 2016, wooden spurners. His first year in the helm, got the win against Hawthorn round 1 back when everyone thought they were going to be a powerhouse again. And we made finals, albeit to get blown away by Sydney. But from last to, I think it was 8th or 7th, it was a great effort. So kudos to Dice. And this is my, tweet of the week. I saw this on Instagram, boys, but this is awesome. This is a great segue. And you got the full-time scores. Pretty flattening, pretty deflating for the Don supporters. And I don't know if anyone watches Dan Does Footy, listens to the podcast. I love it. I think it's just hilarious. Does it with Ollie. I think I'm pretty sure he's the pre-game entertainment guy for St Kilda. But it's great banter. There he goes. Yeah, so the 2024 season gets a farewell game, but Heppell can't. Brilliant. Absolute gold. I couldn't have summed up any better. So, play Dyson Heppell because, the season's done. So, nice little dig at the club. And, I'm surprised I haven't liked it. That's a bit insulting. But, absolutely fell off the chair. Yep.
On this, when Draper kicked the goal and he, lined up and he had to, square the ball up, it reminded me... I don't know if you boys remember, but I love it. International rules, Australia and Ireland, they play with the Gaelic and they have to line the ball up to try, kick it angrily over the crossbar. That's what that reminded me of.
Very true. Very true, mate. All right, Janath. Injuries. Never a good thing at this time of the year when people run out of trades, covers getting dropped, or injured themselves. Mate, what is the carnage looking like this week? And I believe we do have a particular man that's on the screen here confirmed as out for this week.
So we'll start there then. So Harry Sheasel out for the season, not going to play this week. He was in the moon boot on Sunday in the pre-game interview as well, so it wasn't looking overly good. And so he's been ruled out, which means that along with the impending Dan Houston suspension, which we may actually get the outcome of during the podcast, it'll be likely that some of us may be facing a donut down back. I'll stay in defence. Adam Sard is a test. Maybe 2. Yes, Bills. That's right. I'll stay in defence. There's a couple of other big injuries as well. Jeremy McGovern will undergo thumb surgery and he's out for this week. So maybe 3 Spills. It's because I know Gov is pretty popularly owned at the top end in particular.
Yeah.
Adam Sard is a test to return this week. And on the same Carlton front, Charlie Curnow is a test to return this week as well. So hopefully, and I'm saying with a particular selfish nature in mind, I just hope that one of English or Curnow gets up. Give us that extra 30 points on field, please. But he's a test, so we'll see how he goes. But Harry Mackay is going to be a week away. So I think if Harry and Charlie were both sort of test to play, it might have raised a bit of doubt that we'd play both of them. But I think now that Harry's a week away, if Charlie's fit to play, I'm pretty confident he will partner with Brodie Kemp up forward against the Saints. So that's just my feel as a Blues supporter. This one's an indirect injury importance. Jared Berry is a test to play, and we thought it was going to be bad on the weekend. No ice on the hamstring, but he's a test to play, and this will likely impact Zach Merritt. So if he plays, does that mean that he goes with Sack Merritt around the ground? In an already tough matchup, it's just Sacky Merritt just hasn't had an easy end to the season. I think when we at Third Man Up, when we came up with our tagging sort of data, we could see that Dacos and Merritt were going to have a pretty tough schedule to end the season. And hopefully, I'll say hopefully, DR. I don't want Jared Bear to be injured, but come on, take the week off, mate. Rest up.
Oh, get out of it, Jared.
Rest up. Finals are locked in.
Come on. What are you doing?
DR, you're not losing this one, mate. It's all good.
Yeah.
You could rest
You're on
5
the
or
rack
6.
already, have you?
You could rest 5 or 6 of your players, and we'd still cough it up.
Mate, you're gonna knock us over. I can just tell, mate. You're gonna knock us over this week. I can see it happening now.
Oh no. Jordan Ridley is just, I don't know what with this bloke. He's 1 week
Never
away
again.
from being 1 week away.
Never again.
He's 1 week away again.
Gone.
So he's out for the season as well. Sean Darcy is an interesting one because he was supposedly out for this week, but now he's a test. So he's progressing okay. I mean, does it really impact Luke Jackson? Not really.
Not really with Reedy, does it?
Liam Reedy was in the team anyway, and so he was ruck sharing regardless. So I think whether he plays or not is more so a thing for Freo's success rather than for our Supercoach sides. Will Day, unfortunate. This is just one of those picks where I'll come back to what we were saying before, where you put out all the data, you say he has a really good schedule to end the season. At the time, Toby Bedford wasn't tagging. At the time, you didn't know that he was going to suffer from fatigue and cramp against Carlton. At the time, you didn't know he was going to get injured in the first quarter on 7. Just one of those picks where it should have worked, and it's been a complete disaster. Like, this
unfortunate.
I wouldn't blame anyone if you had Will Day on your never again list, even though we were saying he's a starting lock for next year. That's how much of a dichotomy there is.
Yeah, can I just say as well, there's no positive to him getting injured, but purely from a Supercoach point of view, that's obviously going to bring down his starting price next year. How much by, I'm not too sure, but I suppose that's the one little positive for those that were looking at selecting him next year. You're going to get him more likely cheaper than what you were assuming you were anyway with your planning.
Very hesitant to start Will Day. It's always something.
We'll have to ask Kata.
It's always it's a bit similar to Whitfield in previous years. It's just always something, and it's random as. It's a funny one. Just always been in Cooper own since his draft years. It's crazy, which is a shame because he's such an elite talent, and there wouldn't be a better time to jump on him. So
good news for the Hawks though is that he should be right for their first final. Just it's in that area of first final, semi-final area. So that's just one to keep out.
Yep, so we can knock out Brisbane. Help to knock out Brisbane the first week. Eliminate us. We'll come up against Hawthorn, and they'll take us to the cleaners. Gone. Season 2024 out the window. Okay.
Up there at the Gabba DR.
There is a scenario, DR.
Oh, mate, we could play them anywhere, mate. And
the Hawks. I think the only scenario you have is you play the Hawks at the MCG. I don't think the Hawks can play you at the Gabba. Unless we beat St Kilda by more than Hawks beat North Melbourne, which is not going to happen. But let's be real.
All right.
So
I'm not going to
take it easy, mate. Take it 1 week at a time. The last injury I want to talk about is another selfish one. Tim English. He's more unlikely than likely to play, but this is better than what we had last week. He was already ruled out this time last week. So if they've got their main training on Friday, what I expect is that he'll be named on Thursday. They'll name an emergency ruck, which I don't really know. They'll probably just be lob. So it'll just be English if he's a late out is what we'll see. So just because he's named on Thursday, that doesn't mean that he's definitely right to go. Just as a disclaimer, have a look at Twitter on Friday and see whether he gets through main training or not. Those are the injuries this week, boys. Anything else you want to add?
You missed the most important one for all us Chad Warner owners, all the millions
Chad
of us.
Warner. Sorry, mate. I was going to get there, and I was like, "There's no way in hell Sydney put Chad Warner out there with first spots." So no.
What happened to Chad? I missed it. What happened, Pig?
He didn't play last week.
Yeah, I think they said it was a little calf niggle off the top of my head.
They might wrap him in cotton wool for September.
That's what I wouldn't. With
That's
top
unlucky,
spots
isn't
sewn up,
it?
there's really nothing to play for. Sorry, Pig. And I'm just saying this because it's pretty bad if you own any of the Sydney Primos, really, because they're all rest risks this week because they're the only team that's sewn up their spot. They can't move from first.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of chat. There's been a lot in our chat in our Slack, especially with how sluggish Grundy looked last week. That
I was just going to say, man,
he's
a shout. He might not play.
He looked no good last week. Like
he
when he
needs
went
a
down on the
break.
ground, he stayed there for a little while, and it's just like I was actually thinking of conserving my last trade for this week, just in case Grundy was out. But at the end of the day, I looked at his price and I thought there's no one around the price anyway. I could probably trade him out to. So, very, very unfortunate there. Boys, that is the bad news. However, we may have some good news here because we are going to have a quick chat about some of the best trading options for your SuperCoach Grand Final. And congratulations if you have made your SuperCoach Grand Final. The most I've heard of, boys, is 16 Grand Finals. We've obviously got up to 20 leagues this year, so 16 is pretty impressive. Very impressive. Pig, we might start off with you, great man, because we know that you have come to the floor here with a few of your favourite options, buddy. So did you want to start with some defenders, midfielders? How did you want to go about it, mate? Because I'm very, very keen to hear. Now, I'm not in the position where I've got to trade, but for those people that do, who your best options are, mate. So how did you want to go about it, buddy?
I reckon, let's go through it by line and maybe so I can talk about some defenders and then we can open it up and you guys, see what you think about my guys or see if there's anyone I've missed. So if I had a trade left and I wanted a defender, Tom Stewart would be my number one option this week. Coming up against West Coast, pretty much the easiest midfield matchup. He's a 70% CBA mid. At GMHPA, I think he's going to annihilate them. If you already had Tom Stewart, I mean, Lockie Whitfield with the Bulldogs matchup should be all right. He's quite expensive, though. If you want cheaper, I really like Nick Newman against the Saints at, I believe it's at Marvel. So I think he'll be really good. I've been banging his drum for weeks and he's kind of delivering a little bit less so last week, but I think he's going to be great. So I think Stewart and Newman are my two number ones in terms of, who's going to score well for a 1 week stint. There are some guys a bit lower like Max Holmes, Trent Rivers, Daniel Rioli that have nice matchups if you're like scraping the 400k barrel. But I love Tom Stewart. I love Nick Newman. Any other thoughts on defenders?
Very nice.
Just to add on Nick Newman, very quickly, mate, is that Mitch McGovern's a test to play this week with some hamstring awareness. So that could really help Newman out in that regard. So I think Newman is one. And I think it's really important we have this discussion as well because Dan Houston owners are probably going to have to trade him out if you've got the trade. So your two picks, Pig, Stewart and Newman both will appear later on in this video. Massimo D'Ambrosio is another one. And I really like the matchup, North Melbourne, last three, 110, 100, 110. He's been banging this 100 to 110 drum most of the back half this season, except for a couple of low games. And I think he's pretty safe for a 100 to 110 score again if you don't have the cash to go up to a Newman from Houston, because Houston's only 526k. I thought he would have been a bit more expensive than that. But so it's like, who can you really afford?
He had a howler a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, he did. Max Holmes is another one. I think like everyone's going to go up well against West Coast. I've got a couple of sneaky targets to target this specific matchup later on as well. So, Pig, if you know the defender mentions, you want to take it away with the mids?
There was one more because you've just triggered my memory there as we're talking about. Obviously, if you've got a little bit of cash to get Houston up, like Nick Newman's the guy or Tom Stewart. But if you don't and you got to go under, I actually really like Carl Amon with that same North Melbourne matchup. He's put two 120s in the last 3 weeks.
That's fair.
He's also, they're playing at UTAS. That's the biggest stadium in that AFL play at in terms of dimension. So hopefully for a winger attacking defender, he gets a lot of space. So I agree, Massimo or Amon if you have to go down from Houston.
That's a great point, man.
Yeah, very good, very good. Can I just ask one question? I don't know if anyone knows the answer. Is there someone that's really, if someone's looking for the Ultra Pod, right, this week, just to go completely different, is there one player in particular that will benefit from the absence of Houston this week? Is someone like a Kane Farrell? Would he affect someone like Farrell that much? Is there much more of the pie for Farrell this week with Houston out? Or are we talking a Burton type? Is there anyone that we can think of maybe worth actually taking a sneaky look at this week from Port Adelaide, given the fact that someone may need to fill the void of Houston?
I just don't think that Farrell's ever going to be that Supercoach relevant because he doesn't rack it up
for a week. Just for a week.
Just like, for a week. I mean, possibly. We just don't have any data.
Maybe Jace Burgoyne's the best one.
Jace Burgoyne he's a good player. Yeah.
Bit of Burgoyne, get him in draft.
Farrell had 11 on the weekend, 17 the week before. Like he really needs 25 to 30 touches to even touch 100, 110 because like Houston is that super efficient by foot. His disposal efficiency is very, very good. And just as I mentioned that the tribunal has come 5 matches for Houston.
5.
So he's probably played his last game as a Port player. He's probably going to get a couple of games at his new club as well. Just pretty.
So if they lose the first one, second one,
Wonder where he's going to go, Janath. Like, do you reckon he'll go to the D's or with all the culture?
He doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to go.
You hear Petrarca having chats and going like, Blues, "Nah, mate, don't do it.
Come to Carlton.
Yeah, you can come in for the Bombers for Jake Kelly. That'd be nice.
Surely you'd be looking to go to Hawthorn if you're a free agent at the moment.
That's what I was going to.
They're on the up.
Yeah, they're the team you really want to go to, isn't it? Yeah, they're hip, they're happening. I'll tell you what is. I'm so jealous of Hawthorn supporters. Like, they've had so many good periods, and it's like, I know they're going to be down the bottom for a while, and it's like, nah. And I'm always spewing because my dad was a Hawthorn supporter. All mum's side were Fitzroy, and I got steered towards bloody Fitzroy. So thank you very much, Mum and Nan. I appreciate that. All right, Pig.
Great, mate.
Yeah, well, yeah, but Brisbane, mate. That's the Brisbane Lions, mate. Not bloody Fitzroy line. Anyway, I'm not going to rant about the merger on this podcast. I've done enough of that. Pig, hit us up with the midfielders, mate. Who you liking this week, buddy?
Yeah, there's a few. Probably my favourite one is Lachie Neale. I just think he's in really good form. I really don't think Essendon will tag him at the Gabba, where he's been incredible this year. And my opinion is that he's got a Brownlow on the line and will want to do everything he can to try and get 3 more votes. So I really like Lachie Neale. Yeah, there is. Zach Butters as well. Like, he's just in insane form. He's got a 3-round average of 140. Playing Freo at Perth isn't super easy, but they have been leaking a little bit lately, so he should do well. And then if you want to get a bit cheaper, so in that 500 to 550K, Noah Anderson's probably my guy. Again, like, he's got a horrible record away from Gold Coast. I think he's averaging 87 or something away from Gold Coast this year. So it's really hard to trust. But against Richmond, Richmond are one of the easiest teams. They're in a bit of a shambles, and he's actually played them 4 times in his career, never gone under 122. So that gives a little bit of confidence. Yeah. Josh Dunkley, I mean, the same reason I talked about Neale. I think Dunkley should do well. Elliot Yeo against the Elliot Yeo against the Cats should be all right. Or if you want really cheap, I've got guys like Hugh McCluggage for Brisbane, Dangerfield for a 1 week against the Eagles maybe. Or even Touk Miller, returning now and quite cheap and playing against that Tigers rabble. So there's a few options. I mean, Lachie Neale, Zach Butters and Noah Anderson, I think, are my 3 that if you don't have that you could target.
I've got another one, Pig, to add to your list. I'm gonna play another game. Guess who? I'm not gonna. Cripps is the obvious one. I think he's another one that's got a Brownlow on the line. This guy doesn't have a Brownlow on the line, but I'm gonna give this player's last 6 scores at this venue and try pick him.
All right.
110. So this is from most recent to furthest back. 110, 136, 174, 118, 114, 106. He's a midfield and is priced under 530K. His team lost their
Jeez.
prime midfielder recently.
John Newcomb.
Jai Newcomb it is. Utah
Oh.
Stadium.
You are
How did you
Josh.
do that? That's unbelievable.
He loves
You
a
are
game at Utah
joking me.
Are
Stadium.
you serious? First guess. What?
That's
Wow.
and do you know what? I promise you, I would share my screen if it didn't stuff up with all the things here. I was going to bring a pod to the floor. It was John Newcomb. I'm sitting here looking at this 162 coming up against North. I'm going, here we go. I'm going to add
There
something
you
to
go.
the discussion here. And Janath just
Sorry,
jumps in and goes, here we go, with a bit of a who am I? And Pig nails it out of all the players. You're a freak, Pig.
He's good.
That is unbelievable. You are good,
He's
mate.
very
You
good.
are bloody
But
good.
as
mate.
There we
good as
go.
Pig is that record at a stadium, comes up against North.
Mhm.
I think this one's got big,
Put him
big
at one.
star signs lining up here. So I think
He's the priority.
He's the priority.
Absolutely.
If only
mate.
I
don't
had
know what
one
it is.
trade left, he'd be the guy.
And I'll tell you what, even in preseason, they played the Dogs at Utah's, and I can't remember I think he scored 145 in the Pracky game earlier this year, and people are really starting to hype him up as a pick.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I
this
did.
guy
My
at
bad.
Utah's just... Yeah, I'm not looking at anyone picks. The other one that I had is Jack Viney. So fresh off I think a 2-year contract extension, playing against I feel like we say this every week, but a depleted Collingwood midfield. He's not going to get tagged, most likely by Sidebone. I just can't see them tagging a play like Viney. He's scored 156 last year against Collingwood as well, only 52 in the Queen's Birthday Clash this year, coming off a 136. I think that this is another one of those games where we can expect to see their sort of leaders stand up. But if you're telling me between Viney at 415 versus Newcomb at 525, I would take Newcomb 525 every day of the week.
That's a great
Yeah,
shout.
I'd say the only flag for me with Newcomb is that North have actually been quite restrictive for mids, especially over the last half of the year. Since they've got better, they've been quite restrictive, but he's got to shoulder that load. I guess an interesting question at that 520-ish range: would you rather Noah Anderson versus the Tigers or John Newcomb versus the Kangaroos? That's an interesting
really
one.
good question.
Flip a coin, I say.
I'd probably
Noah
side with Noah. I think just because we've seen it, we've seen patterns, and he can go really, really big. In saying this, Mr. Jai's just gone to 160 plus.
Yeah,
but
Noah just against Richmond, like it's just
They're
going to be one of those.
They're pretty
games,
bad.
isn't it?
They're pretty bad, Richmond.
Yeah, and you'd
I
think
like
more
Anderson.
reliable with his body of work as a whole. And as I said, Pig just mentioned that North maybe aren't as easy a matchup as lots of people assume that they are. And just on that, congratulations, Liam Shields also announced his retirement.
Yeah.
Just think
Great
about
career.
that. What a great foot soldier, like the ultimate foot soldier, like no X factor or absolute star qualities, I don't think, but just did his job every week. A team first man, hard at it. So yeah, congratulations, mate. And 3 or 4 flags for Shieldsy.
3.
Three flags. So yeah, well done, mate. Well done.
It's
all right.
It's
boy.
Very quickly. I think also part on that is you'd be pretty surprised if Gold Coast didn't get a cook from Hardwick this week. Like they're going to come out.
Mate.
They should come out firing. Otherwise, that just shows what kind of mentality is at that club. Really.
You'd hope so, mate.
It's a good point.
Are we going to discuss the rocks here?
I reckon we should because.
All right, Pig. Let's go.
Do you have 700k? But that's crazy.
Exactly.
Hey! There's There's other options as well, Spillsy.
All right.
All right. I'll step back then.
You're right. If you have 700k and a trade, you should go and buy Tristan Cherry. I think he's on the ultimate hottest of hot streaks.
Go buy a Bugatti.
Yeah, he has Lloyd Meek this week, who hasn't been restrictive really this year. So I think he'll put a big one up on him. If you've got that came out wrong. If you've got Rowan Marshall, if you've got 600k, Rowan Marshall I think is the next best option. He's got Carlton this week. Pitnet's kind of been middle of the pack, like not restrictive, not easy, just in the middle. But Marshall's actually got a 3-round average of, I think it's 5-round average of 150. 5-round average of 131. And I think he hasn't gone under like 123 in that period. So he's on a good streak. I really like Marshall this week. A little bit of I'd call it a boring one. It's not really sexy, but if you've got between 550 and 600, Jared Witts could be a little option. Nankervis has been giving up a lot of points this year. And also, like we just talked about, I think Gold Coast really want to win this game, because if they win this game, it'll be their most successful season ever, the first time they've ever won 11 games in a season. And Jared Witts is the captain. Surely he will want to put his foot on that game. I talked Kieran Briggs up last week as someone if you need to go under English's price. And he got a fluky matchup with Reedy being the main guy, so he didn't have to compete with Darcy. So that was nice, and he got a nice ton. I think he's going to get the same treatment again this week with the depleted Bulldogs. Even if English plays, he's not restrictive. So I reckon Kieran Briggs is a pretty safe ton this week for low 500s if you need to go down from English's price. If you really, really cash strapped, and need under 500k, I mean, Jordan Sweet is putting up some good numbers, and he plays against Reedy most likely. I don't love it if Sean Darcy's back, but if it's Sweet versus Reedy, and for some reason you need a real cheap guy, Sweety's an option for 1 week.
Very nice.
The other name I was going to say, there's Darcy Cameron. Like the form that he's in, he also has a 5-round average 132, 3-round of 136, and he's going up against some tough matchups in there. So Brisbane, Oscar McInerney is one of the tougher ruck matchups. Brodie Grundy at the SCG, tough ruck matchup, arguably. Before that, he did have a couple of the easier ones against Nank and I don't know who it would have been, SDK when they played Geelong, but like coming up against Melbourne, he's been one of the most improved players this year, I reckon. Like last year, owning him was a bit of just a nightmare because you're like, fire, will this guy ever just put a full game together? Like it was just, even as a forward, it was annoying. But this year, he's really come on leaps and bounds. And I reckon he could be a sneaky starting pick next year. Just the Mason Cox factor looms there, but he's really gone to another level. And I wouldn't mind taking a flyer on him. Early game against Melbourne, like, is this? It's like pod VC territory, I would say.
Very, very interesting. I like it, mate. All right, boys, let's finish off with the forwards. Who do we like this week? I think there's one very obvious one who killed me last week. Pig, what do you think, mate?
Well, there's no forwards over 600k, so we won't worry about that price bracket.
That's crazy.
The 550 to 600, I mean, Sam Flanders is one of my best picks of the week, but I'm assuming everyone has him. There's obviously the guys like Zorko and Heaney that I probably won't really mention because I feel like they're quite highly owned.
Yeah.
Last week, I really talked up Jesse Hogan because he's, a real chance of the Coleman and actually probably going to win it now. Yeah. And he put out a 124 after my chat last week. Probably wouldn't recommend him this week just because his Bulldogs are a bit harder, playing at Mars Stadium, kind of weird things happen there. Also, he's kind of got the Coleman sewn up, so he doesn't necessarily... Yeah,
True.
He doesn't have to.
Doesn't even need to
bag.
play, and it's his.
Yeah, so I probably wouldn't recommend him this week. Dylan Moore's the guy, I reckon, playing against North Melbourne at UTAS. If you don't have him under 550k, he's the one I would want.
Yeah.
I'd like to have some chat around Brett Daniels. If you he got a 196 last week, obviously really eye-catching. But if you look at his 4 rounds before that, they've all been really, really good. Like, he's put a really good 5 weeks together. Is he actually an option, or is it a bit of a trap, do you think?
It's hard to say a 1 week trap, but I would say, he's obviously not going to score 195 again. He just put a game together for a small forward that comes up to stoppages. It's like, it's tough to make comparison, but imagine a Luke Dahlhaus sort of thing, back in the day.
Luke Dahlhaus.
You just have the random spike game.
Shout out to the
But it's it's just hard to, you're not putting together 195. That's just ridiculous. He was just everywhere. But he's not the worst option, honestly. Against the Bulldogs, I was watching. North isn't the best matchup to make anything come off it, but typically you'd think that the Dogs are very good clearance side, so you'd imagine that Daniels would come up to stoppages again. I just don't like the matchup. if it was, for instance, a Richmond or a North or a West Coast,
Yeah, fair.
pretty easy. Even like a Collingwood, Essendon sort of thing. Like it's probably the matchup that's sort of straying me away. And in this game, like I think it's going to be a proper bloodbath. These teams don't like each other. They both have things to play for. It's going to be very hard to predict who has the ceiling score. And I don't think it'll be in some of the names we would expect to have the ceiling score is what I'd say.
Yeah, if I just read out Brett Daniels' last 5 games, he's gone 89, 132, 86, 93, 195. So he's actually put a really good 5 weeks together. But
good stretch.
I do kind of agree that I don't like this matchup, and weird things happen on Mars sometimes.
Yeah, that's a very good
gets kicked out of the stadium, lands in someone's backyard.
Yeah.
Oh, the wind there, it is so cold. I've been there a couple of times to watch the Lions play, and I'd tell you, I enjoy it because it's got that real local feel to it. You know, I was just standing up on the hill and all the rest behind the goals. But, yeah, it's bloody cold, boys, at Mars.
And then if you need to go cheaper, under 500K, I quite like Connor McDonald. He's put together like quite a bunch of 80s in a row, playing against North at UTAS. I think he's just another solid, safe 80. Joe Danaher, I recommended him last week, and Pistol gave me a bit of shit for it, but he came out and put a big ton on the board. And
nice pick.
It could have been more. That was the most Joe Danaher game I've ever seen.
Oh,
so many good things, so many bad things.
Yeah. I put a tweet out. If I could, I'd give him the 3 votes and the -3 votes all in one game.
Exactly. But look, I don't think Bombers are going to do very well this game. Joe could kick another bag. Jeremy Cameron against West Coast. I think he could potentially kick a bag too at GMHBA.
Yep.
But unfortunately, it feels really gross to say, but if you're looking for someone under 500K, it's probably back to Zach Fisher.
Oh,
with Sheasel out, he's got that easy backline
Zach
role.
Fisher, seriously. I finally get rid of the bloke the week before.
No.
It's like... it's nothing personal, but I'm talking purely as a Supercoach pick. I hate him. Not as a person, as a pick. It's just.
DR, I got a question for you. Was it fish or was it bait, mate? What do you reckon?
Oh, mate, I got sucked in a few times. Feels very good, my friend. Very, very good. But, look, I think that we were in the team chat the other week on X. And it was Damon, the great Damon, one of my favorite loose units from Supercoach Heads. Absolutely love the man. Shout out to you, mate. We were talking about who the best replacement was. And it was, I actually said to him, maybe look at the fish, because last trade he had Dawson where you can make the switch as well. So it actually worked out really well for him. But I was always a little bit worried, is he going to get subbed off like last time, all the rest? But yeah, it has worked out really well. So it's a decent call. It probably is a fish, isn't it? To be all.
Do you want something funny, boys? This is just on the fish. I'll give you his ownership, like peak and trough throughout the season. So he started at 37.5%, and then he went down to 7.3% when he was made the sub. Then that starts to peter back up again, reaches 30.6% again, and then he gets injured, and now it's down to 10.2%. And you never know. There's some people trading him in this week. 65 of them.
I'll tell you. Talk about a roller coaster of a pick, eh? That is just
right there.
The other player. Oh, go on, DR. Sorry, mate.
No, sorry. I was just going to say, what's most annoying is that I've wasted probably 4 trades on the bloke. Oh, it's shattering, isn't it, Pig? Sorry, Janath, continue, mate.
No, all good, mate. The other player I was going to say is because no McGovern, no Barras at GMHBA's team, I reckon you could load up on any of the Geelong forwards, really. So I'm talking Brian Myers, Ollie Henry, Jeremy Cameron is probably the big one, probably going to kick a bag. I had was listening to somewhere, and they said that Eagles' last 3 games they played at GMHBA Stadium, they've lost by an average of 80 points. And I think this week could be just as bad, really. One other one, and this player, I think, more so for the personal side of things, really in round 24, you're looking into the intangibles a little bit. Alex Neil-Bullen. So he's now sort of being forced to play full-time mid. They've really gone with the Trent Rivers, Alex Neil-Bullen, Judd McVie, Jack Viney, Fab Four. Like, imagine saying at the start of the season, that would be the Demons midfield.
Unbelievable. Just crazy.
Yeah, just need Tommy Fullerton in there as well, and they're right.
You're talking about, like, we were talking. Who was it before? We were talking about the player who we were talking about before the last, like, them having a good stretch. Oh, Brett Daniels. Alex Neil-Bullen's last four have been 119, 98, 83, 91. On the weekend, he had a fair few CBAs, and I think this is the big question here, and this is sort of tapping into your inner coach. So on the weekend, you had 53% CBAs. You successfully tagged Dacos on Queen's birthday, but you lost the game. Now your midfield. Now Neil Bullen wasn't a midfield at the time, but now he's basically become a fully fledged midfielder in his own right. Do you run it back, or is your midfield too defensive already that you just, as a forward, you've just got to go man for man there? I think this is a big question that a lot of coaches, especially with the Pies playing their first game, the Dacos score is one that could get away just as much as it could be one that people get on and it's just an 80 sort of thing. It's real. I can't see a 120 here. I either see a really big score or a really low one.
I'm exactly the same, Janath. I talked about that with the VCs. He's either going to be an amazing VC or a horrible one. What's your gut feeling, guys? Mine probably is that they do tag, just because, like, Melbourne can't make finals, but they've got all these questions about their culture. They still want to win. Like, and maybe they just want to annoy Collingwood. My gut feeling is they do tag. What does everyone else think?
I've got to. If I had to pick, I reckon they tag him as well. I reckon they tag him
with Neil Bullen.
With Neil Bullen,
or do you go with one of the defensive mids that you have, McVee or Rivers?
I think that we know we've got data. We've seen him do the job before.
Yeah.
So if it works, then you don't need to reinvent the wheel. I don't think so. I know different circumstances, all the rest, but
that's the question: is you lost that first outing, pretty handsomely.
Oh, he lost it.
As in Neil Bullen won the battle, but they lost the ball. Yeah.
Yes.
Collingwood won. Yeah.
Oh, look.
It'll be interesting. I know last time they played, Goodwin did tell us like half an hour before the game that the tag was going to happen. So hopefully he tells us beforehand again.
Yeah, that'd be handy, pig.
Get glued to your tellies.
Spillsy, your gut feel, mate. A and B to Dacos or not?
I would be surprised. It'd just be classic if they did. Like, his
last game for the club as well.
Yeah, if you fit him, because he absolutely did the job on him last time, and it worked. I know it didn't get the win, but I mean, it could have been a lot more if they didn't elect to do that. So I wouldn't rule it out. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but it's a tough one.
And the other thing, DR, don't go about changing your VC by seeing where they're lined up, because Neil Bullen had a grand total of 0 CBAs against Collingwood the first time. So he didn't tag from inside the centre square, he tagged from outside. So don't go have a look who's lined up on Nick Dacos.
Interesting. All right.
I know you want to do that, mate. That's what I was saying.
Before we just move on, Janath, you were just mentioning Jeremy McGovern being out, and did you say there was another West Coast defender as out as well?
Yeah, Tom Barris as well. So it's going to be Harry Edwards and the small fleet of defenders they have.
So that kind of makes me think, could, like, Geelong will be scoring a lot, potentially a lot of points and kickouts. Could someone like Alex Witherden or Liam Duggan be a bit of a strange,
what a call.
100?
What a throwback.
That's
I'm just thinking, who's going to take those kick-ins?
Yeah. That is smart thinking, Pig. There should be a fair few on offer, mate. Absolutely.
You'd have to be game, but that's a great shout.
Jeez, but
you'd be jumping on the old Shannon Hearn in this situation, wouldn't you? Absolutely. Be all over Hearny.
Just need him for 1 week.
Need 40 touches to come up.
Come back, Shannon. Bring back Hearn. All right, boys.
With it, and I'll tell you why I don't like that, because Gov missed a couple of weeks, and Witherden hasn't turned up since round 13. So
you're not.
I think
probably.
So Lockin is going to 144.
It'd take a lot of kahunas to go there for sure.
It
For all the
will.
other options.
I'll be keen to see the podcast next week, and you'll be like, "Damn, Witherden did do 130."
Yeah, what? Yeah, exactly.
Should have
Yeah,
listened to Pig.
Would have bought him in if I had the trades, boys. Bummer. Maybe next time.
tradeless skills. Now, boys, it's okay. It's okay if you are tradeless because there is still a way to get an advantage on the competition. We are finally at this moment where we're going to take a deep dive into the best captaincy options this week. So we're going to start off with the first graphic, as we do as usual. Shout out to Roscoe as well, the other half of the third man up. And after this slide, we're then going to go on to the next one where we have a bit of a comparison between the great Janath's top 5 picks and the great Pig's top 5 picks, with a bit of a pod VC and C thrown there as well. Just a bit of a cherry on top. So, Janath, take us away, mate. Talk a little bit about the chart that you got here, and then we'll get into the big discussion about who your top 5s are.
What I will just say overarchingly is, in the presence of the Pig, this had a little bit more pressure, just to get the rankings a little more straight enough. You know, I don't know if Pig does it, but like it's always good to just do a compare and contrast of how your rankings sit, because it's obviously good. Like you don't want to just tunnel vision yourself into saying, "Oh, I picked this player at number 1. I can't look at anything else," sort of thing. So it's just to disclaimer that it's great that we have this sort of platform to do so. The thing I want to disclaim about this graphic is that a lot of the popular VCC options don't actually have much good matchup data this week. So I'm talking Nick Dacos, Max Gorn. Like we were just having that chat about Nick Dacos. Does he get the tag? Does he not? Because the matchup data, like a Melbourne midfield, is easy to score against, but obviously got the elephant in the room. Does he get tagged? If he doesn't get tagged, I see this as a monster game, but I just can't see them. If he has 20 in the first, there's no way that they have a tagger there that has worked on him in the past. Gorn, very similar. And then when you work your way down, like the Bontempelli against GWS, many may think that's a good matchup. In my opinion, I don't think it is, because Callan Ward has gone to him in the past, I would say 2 or 3 matchups. I remember very vividly last year, Ward went to him after he had about 10 touches in the first, and he really cooled him down. I don't think that he got to the 120. And earlier this year at Giant Stadium as well, Bontempelli got the tag from Ward, not Bedford. So it may be interesting. This is another reason why I'd stray away from this matchup, is that the Giants could employ 2 taggers, which is a strategy that they haven't used before. But Bedford is obviously too small for the Bont, but Callum Ward isn't. So that's a reason why I'd be straying away there. And then, like, can we rely on a Sunday last game of the season captain? I really want to at Sack Butters, but it's just it has everything. Everything feels wrong about it. So look, we're going to give you some good choices. I think there's 3 or 4 matchups to really target. The first one is Geelong West Coast. So the Geelong, specifically Tom Stewart. Then Gold Coast against Richmond. So any of the Gold Coast mids should do well. And I've got Anderson and Flanders there, so I think they may appearing. Hawthorn against North. So on both sides of the coin, you got Dylan Moore as possibly a pod option there. As we mentioned, Jai Newcombe if you own him. And then on the flip side, Tristan Cherry, I think, is a very, very safe VCC option given his form. The third, so is this the third or the fourth? Sorry. The fourth matchup is the Brisbane mids against Essendon. And then I'd say the 5th matchup slightly just comes to the Carlton against St Kilda. I think there's a couple of good options in that one. So sorry, 5 games where you can really pick and choose your VCC. Although for some cases, because a lot of these players aren't popularly owned at the top end, we may be relying on a Butters or Sarong in the last game, which again feels so wrong because it's the last game of the season. It's like you don't want to rely on it, but we may just have to. So, Peak, do you have anything you want to add before we get into our rankings?
Yeah, look, I'd just echo your sentiment that I obviously do my research, have my own opinion, put my video out to the world, but then I always go and check the third man up and just kind of correlate. And it's a really good feeling when I've recommended these guys super highly and then you guys do as well. It's like all right, if we're both recommending them, surely
minds think alike.
Should go well, right?
Yeah, it gives you a bit of
Great minds think
a
alike.
bit more confidence. And I think what you've said, you haven't necessarily said it outright, but I think this is actually going to be a slightly tricky round potentially for captains. Like I think we've had two really blessed rounds, especially round 22. Like I was doing my research before round 22 and I just went, oh, this is gigantic. And I called it and I said, we're going to see our first 2,800 score for the round. 11 coaches went over 2,800. Someone got a 2,900. I don't see that happening this week. I think this is going to be a bit harder to pick. And I think it's probably a week where I'd be happy with the 125 and I wouldn't really pass that up. Whereas other weeks there's been just juicy matchups that I would pass it up for. So that's kind of where I'm sitting this week. It's not going to be the gigantic 2,900 scoring finish week that sometimes you want.
Before we get into this next slide, just one thing that I'll quickly add is just be careful who you're actually planning on looping with this week, because just some popular loops I've just looked at now. You got Kruger and Conan Brown, who are both on that first game on the Friday night. And then the West Coast rookies have the second game of the round, the first game on the Saturday there. And then Reed's probably one of the later ones there on the Saturday night. But just be super, super careful there. If you've got a luxury of a 23rd, 24th type player that you're looking to possibly loop on a score, just make sure when it comes to your captain loop, you can get in a little bit of trouble. You may have to take a bit of a dodgy emergency score in order to take advantage of a good VC score and all the rest. So please, 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 my quick advice before we get into the great man's rankings here is to double check your loops, make sure that whoever your VC captain is, it works, and you're not going to stuff around too much and really shoot yourself in the foot. That's all the advice I'll give. And I'm going to shut up now.
Houston is a great loop this week. Last game of the season.
Oh, the best loop you can get.
All right. Well, a little bit of a blessing there. So you're always a glass half full type man, Janath.
I'll make sure I utilise that this week, boys.
Good on you, Spillsy. All right. Here we go. A bit of a drum roll. We are now on to the big one. Pig's captains and Janath's captains there. Look, we can see some similarities here. Pig, you're on the left-hand side, mate. So we're going to start off with you. No surprise, the great man at the top.
Yeah, definitely Tristan Cherry. I mean, he's like the in-form player of the comp. If we could look at the post-buy scoring, surely he'd be at the top. He's just killing. He's got a 5-round average of 157. 3-round average of 157, 5-round of 146. I can't remember when people have done that for a while. He plays against Lloyd Meek, who I looked back. If you look at DFS, it actually shows Hawthorn as kind of middle of the pack, not that easy, but it's because he's played some actually quite, not the best ruckman, and it skews the data a bit. So I went back and looked at some of the times those uber premium ruckmen have played against Meek this year. Marshall had a 164, Cherry had a 135. No, English had a 135, and Cherry had a 144 earlier in the years, and Gawn had a 113. So he's been giving up. Meek's a big boy. He won't get pushed around necessarily as easily as some of the other opponents, but Cherry's just in such hot form that I absolutely expect him to go bonkers. What about you? What do you think about Cherry? Janath, you don't quite have him number one, but obviously still hot on him.
Nah, very high on Cherry. I think it's just so hard to go past the current form that he's in. When as a non-owner, you just watch with your eyes closed because this bloke just racks up points for fun, regardless of the matchup. I think he's just so dominant at the source with the hitouts, but then he gets around the ground, and that's the tackles just provide him that extra boost that sort of really increase his ceiling. You were saying that UTAS is a wide ground, so maybe there will be fewer stoppages in that matchup, especially because Hawthorn is a really run and gun team, and this is why I think some of the North midfielders may struggle, which is not I'm not very happy about, but we just have to make do. But Cherry's just one that you can safely slap the VC on and go from there.
Yeah,
very nice.
Absolutely. So then I've next got Rowan Marshall. I think, like I said, he's in great form. His last 5 scores, 123, 135, 126, 126, and 146. So he's absolutely rolling right now. I've been talking him up for a while as having the best run home if you wanted a ruckman for your Supercoach finals. And I think he's just in such hot form. I talked about it a little bit before. I don't think Pitnet's going to make it easy on him, but I don't think he'll really restrict him either. So, like, I'm probably not expecting the big 146 that he did last week, but, you know, as a safe either a VC or a C, I think I really like him. You don't have him on there, Janath, but a consideration?
This is the one where I'm in an R and really about it. I think Marshall is in really good form, but I think Pitnet has really changed the way that he's played the last couple of weeks. And when he first came back into the team against Jordan Sweet, he really struggled to get off the ground, let alone compete much at all. But in the last couple of weeks, I've really seen a shift in his attitude when he's approached those ruck contests. Last year, Pitnet came up against Marshall twice for scores because this was before Tom DeConning became the main ruck, for scores of 118 and 88. So I guess we have a little bit of data there. And Marshall, you could say, was in similar form just before that. He'd gone, this is last year, before that 118, he'd gone 113, 124, 58, 149. And after that, he went 146, 141, 154. So it's like the Pitnet score is probably like near the lower end of that. So it's a real interesting one, because having Marshall at 2, I could have just as had Marshall at 2. I've got Lockie Neal at 1. And so you don't have Lockie Neal on there at all. So it really does show how slight differences or slight interpretations. And one of the major reasons is I think that you lose a close game like that, you probably, and I don't mean any harm here, DR, but you probably bottle double chance. There's only one way that Lockie Neal is going to bounce back. Knowing his character, maybe a third round on the line, Essendon don't tag, playing at the Gabba. I think just all the cards have aligned for a really, really good game for Lockie Neal. And that's why I've got him at 1. Cherry at 2. We've got Butters both at 3, I think.
Here we go.
Pig, do you want to chat on why we have Butters at 3?
Yeah, well, I might touch on Lockie Neal as well, because I've got him there in the yellow as kind of the pod VC. This was, I guess, a cheeky way of us to both recommend 8 players. Instead of just the 5, because we just wanted to talk. But I've also got Lockie Neal like quite highly ranked up, and the reason I don't have him as high is because Essendon haven't really been that easy to score against. There's been a few guys that have turned up against them recently, but as a whole, they haven't been leaky. But I do agree, they've got nothing to play for. They're going to roll over, I think. One of the cool things about Lockie, he averages over 120 points a game at the Gabba. But that's from 55 career games. Like, I don't know anyone that averages 120 points from 55 games.
Wow.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Like, that is monstrous numbers. There aren't many players that average 120 at a ground when they've only played there 10 times, but he's doing it from 55 games. So
Great call, Pig. Great day.
Really, really like that. And then, Zach Butters. He's just in really hot form. Like, a 3-round average of 140. He's looking really, really good. I don't think he's necessarily in like the Brownlow sniff of like the Neals and Cripps and going to be playing for his life here. But I mean, they're still playing for a top 4 spot. They've got plenty to play for. And if we look at Freo, they actually went through a period in the middle of the year, I remember, where they were the hardest midfield to score against. And that's really just gone away now. Like, over the last 5 weeks, they're kind of the 5th easiest to score against. So they're giving up a few. I do think that's a little bit skewed by that Brent Daniels 195. That kind of throws all the data and makes him look really easy, because he's characterized as an inside mid on DFS. But still, even outside of that, like Tom Green had a 143 and Tim Kelly had a 139 against Freo recently. So it's quite possible. And I think we've both got Zach at number 3. So I think he's a great option.
Can I add one thing to this? And this is a quirk that DR and Spills have heard about all year, basically. Since round 15, in games that Zach Butters hasn't been tagged or hasn't started on the bench, he scores 123, 114, 159, 120, 132, 131, 156. So he started on the bench against Richmond, which was the game that we all tried to captain him.
Yeah, that's right.
And he was already like 20 points behind Rosie. And then he got tagged against Chincotta to the point where he was moved to half forward. Other than that, like, he was tagged against Windhagen in round 16 against the Saints, well, still put up 114. So I could probably exclude that data point. He hasn't gone below 120. So the only red flag the only red flag is he plays the last game of the season for me, and it's just like
stressful.
It's very stressful.
Yeah. Do you think he'll get tagged? Like, would Hayden Young or Nat Fyfe sit on him? They haven't really been doing that lately.
They haven't been tagging at all this season. I can't really see them changing. They're usually a team to back in their midfield, I feel. Like, if they really wanted to tag, there have been plenty of opportunities to do so. And Hayden Young, I think, has lost that defensive element to him. He's almost become more so an attacking midfielder because he just streams out of the middle.
Oh, you
and doesn't play at the back of stoppages.
Yeah, he's elite. Cut us up a few.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past him though, Janath. There's a lot on the line here for both sides.
It's weird things happen, but look, again, I think one of the beauties of having Houston there is you can put your VC and then you can wait till the very last minute to decide whether or not you want to roll it on one of the Freo or Port players. And Butters, I think, is the best of that lot. And I think Pig agrees based on the rankings.
Yeah, I really like him. Then if we talk about Tom Stewart, because I've got him as my pod VC, I did actually have him. I shuffled the rankings to make the pod. He was actually my number 3, and he's at your number 4. So we're both quite keen on Tom Stewart. For me, it's the West Coast matchup. You know, they're the easiest midfield in the league at the moment. It's also GMHBA, where he does score a lot better at. It's a smaller ground. Maybe there's more stoppages. West Coast have actually been a bit restrictive to defenders lately, so him popping back into defence, you know, that's not as good. But he's playing as a 70% CBA mid since he's moved into the mid. So, yeah, I really like him. I mean, guys like Cripps with a 142 and Brayshaw with a 137 recently have torn up West Coast. So I think we both expect Tom Stewart to do the same thing.
It's just the perfect role because you basically get first hands of the ball at centre bounces. If he doesn't get it, he just floats back into defence and he gets the ball there.
Yep.
So I think like he could have a picnic. The thing is, it's an interesting one because I feel more confident putting the VC on him than the C because it's a player
definitely.
that you really want to you really want to screen what his score could be because it could be anywhere from 110 to 160. It really is because off the matchup, it's so hard to say. And you've got to imagine that, yes, West Coast are bad, but Geelong's going to have a field day. You're going to see many of their forwards. If they're kicking the goals, they're probably going to take the bulk of the points as well. So it's just another small thing to consider. So that's where I really like him as a VC. And you've got him as a pod VC yourself, Pig. At your 4, at my 5, we've got Gold Coast mids, just different mids. We really could have done a Flanders / Anderson. You've got Anderson as a pod C.
Yeah. Don't say Matt Rowell.
I had Flanders as my 5 as well. I mean, it's tomato, really. Like, I think you're pretty safe with either VC or seeing. Would you feel more confident VC or seeing a Sam Flanders this week?
I actually think Sam Flanders is... Yeah, I think Sam Flanders is the captain choice of the two because I actually don't see him having the big ceiling. He's not a midfielder anymore. His last 2 games, he's only attended 2 CBAs. So he's actually playing as a forward. He's pushing up the ground. He's getting a lot less disposals.
Into the stoppages, though.
Yeah. So his disposals has dropped off, but his scoring involvements have gone up a lot. He's actually led Gold Coast in scoring involvements the last 2 weeks. So, and I think there's going to be a lot of scoring involvements against Richmond. And they usually give you a Supercoach boost, especially if you're the one actually doing the direct assist or scoring yourself. So I don't think Flanders is going to be like a giant 150. I think he'll be like a safe 120. Whereas Anderson is the one that could go 150, but also could go 70. So I don't think there's any way I would captain Noah Anderson, but I'd very, very happily VC him.
There's also a watch, though, that I would reckon that one of Will Graham or Alex Davies gets dropped this week. We've seen Dimmer after losses is one for a big mass cull. So in the last 2 weeks, Graham has gone 3 weeks. Graham's gone 67, 79, 60% CBAs. Davies has gone 71, 50, 71 and 50. Matty Rowell only at 30, Tuke only at 30% CBAs on the weekend. And Noah Anderson only 53. So it's really Davies and Graham that have been hogging, you'd say 110% off the 300% that is available for the midfielders. One of them gets dropped. You'd imagine that Flanders, Tuke, Anderson get more of that CBA pie. So it's just something to monitor with Thursday teams, especially as the Suns play on the Saturday. But as you can see here, if you don't own some of these players, Flanders may just become a necessity as a VC option regardless. You own Lockie.
Yeah.
I reckon Lockie's a really good shout as a VC, do you?
Yeah, I was thinking of actually Flanders into Lockie.
Oh, yeah.
To be quite honest, but
fair enough.
yeah, it's probably, as Pig said, more that safe captaincy option. You really want that upside with your VC ceiling type, don't you? So maybe a Neil into maybe into a Butters, but
Pig and I were both said before as well that this isn't the week to play around with chasing that high ceiling as well, because of how few real standout options there are, I reckon.
Only if you're getting 2 donuts, you can play around with it. But if you got more to play for, then yeah, you definitely want to be safe, hold that rank, particularly like you boys. 3-digit rank.
Beautiful. Number 5, Pig, Max Gorn.
Good stuff, boys. That's
Big
awesome.
Maxi. What do you reckon?
Yeah, this one's just a bit of, like, I think Max has actually been in good form, probably a bit under the radar. Like, he had scores of 130 and then 177, against 2 easy opponents in the last 3 weeks. He then got a 97 against Jared Witts, but we know that Jared Witts is pretty much one of the hardest ruckmen you can come up against. It's generally Witts and Sean Darcy that are kind of the big restrictive dogs. So if getting a 97 against Witts is fine. And before that, he had a 130 and a 177. And Darcy Cameron isn't really difficult. He's kind of like middle of the pack. Darcy Cameron, when he's solo ruck, was actually giving up a lot of points in the middle of the year. Now with, Mason Cox in the team, it's a bit more, like, it's not as easy. But Max Gorn, he's not someone, like, he's just someone, I've just got him there because we know his ceiling. And he plays on the Friday night. So he's someone that could, like, owners know he could just pop out a 150 at any given week. So it's not necessarily, this one isn't necessarily like a matchup-based DFS data-driven one. This one's a bit of I think he actually is in good form, a little bit under the radar. And, this is a bit of a gut feel that Max could do good things.
Very nice, mate.
Now,
we can see
130 early this year against Cameron as well. That was a matchup which we targeted. It was the Nick Dacos before the tag and injury. That's Max Gorn captain, I remember, on the Queen's birthday as well.
Very good, mate. Now, we can see Pig's Pod VCs. Stuart, have talked about Anderson and Neil. So 5 blokes that you've both absolutely outlined here. Now, Janath, very quickly, mate, we'll go to your Pod VC and Pod Cs. Now, I'm very happy with the first man under the Pod C column, who I traded in a couple of weeks ago. Loving hearing that. But your Pod VC, mate, Dylan Moore.
Yeah, it's good form. The Hawks are just up and about. They're looking to lock in a final spot after starting 0-5. I think Dylan Moore has been the catalyst off then. I think his form continues this week. A good matchup against North. We saw how the Bulldogs forwards went against North in terms of points scored by those forwards. Sam Darcy, 146. Aaron Norton, 97. Lockie McNeil is probably a good comparison to the sort of role that Dylan Moore plays, 87. And if Lockie McNeil scoring 87,
that's what I was going to say.
Not to steal too many synonyms from Pig's dictionary, but if Lockie McNeil can score 87, you can only imagine what Dylan Moore is going to do to North. So, I think Dylan Moore is a great high ceiling, is what I would say, is that we just saw in the week gone by 147. So I think that's a good pick there. And then pod captains, Nick Newman, especially Mitch McGovern's out, is not a bad fallback safe option. I think that he is very safe as a captaincy option. And then Paddy Cripps, as with Lockie Neal, as with Sack Butters, the Bont I didn't put in there because of the Callan Ward factor, Dacos because of the Neil Bullen factor, but probably those 5 guys, and Caleb Sarong even. Another one that's not in there, but could he get Willem Drew attention? Even still, we saw with Toby Bedford, he's become that good of a player that he just gets 20 touches, got a couple of goals. So those 6 names are probably the ones in the Brownlow contention. And I think off them, Butters, Neil, Cripps have the best matchups. So that's where I think Cripps becomes a pod C. Then look, if he can will himself like he did against West Coast, will the team over the line, get us into finals, Cripps is going to be one of the big reasons for that.
Nice.
Pig,
I've got
anything you want to finish with, mate? Here.
Yeah, I've got kind of a list of players that didn't make my list that I've lately been recommending for just still reading out to people on the YouTube for people that might have them in draft. And those three guys there are on my list for guys that didn't quite make my top 9. Dylan Moore, I especially love. Nick Newman, I really, really like that one. I mean, I've been talking about for weeks, but this St Kilda matchup's as good as it gets. Patrick Cripps is probably the one I'm not as interested in, just because St Kilda quite restrictive to midfielders, and like does Jack Steele kind of just knock heads with him and kind of sit on him.
That one's the one. It's more like a gut feel. You just feel sort of thing.
But the factor of playing for another Brownlow and trying to get 3 votes, I think there's something in that. So
Absolutely.
I think we've got a fairly good consensus here. We've got
This
a lot
was
of
a
names,
success,
and
I
a lot
reckon.
of them overlap.
I tell you what.
We should do this more often.
Janet, you talked about how up and about Hawthorn are at the moment. I am up and about after this discussion. I tell you what, you would not have heard a better captaincy discussion for the whole year. We left it late, but I think, as we mentioned before, it's arguably the most important week of the year to get it right. We're talking Cash League Grand Finals here, boys. Thank you very much, Janath and Pig. Spillsy, we must agree here, mate.
Yeah,
the best
it's
captain
crazy.
we've had in 2024.
It doesn't get better. You got the 2 best captaincy collaboration, duo, whatever you like, on our podcast right now. So, yeah, this is, if you're looking for any sort of insight for this week, and you touched on it, leagues, grand finals, whatever, this is as good as it gets. And I think we'll cover a lot of it in the mailbag as well. I think we'll answer a lot of questions, because this is it's usually, we don't have any trades left, particularly myself. I'm only looking at the captaincy. So yeah, this is just crazy stuff here, boys. And I really wish that we had this same discussion the week Bont had Melbourne, and that one just went over my head. But look, it is what it is, boys. And really well done. It's just awesome insight. You won't get anywhere else.
And just so everyone knows, we haven't seen each other's list before now, so that we went and did it independently.
Top
and
secret.
Now we've come in and gone, oh, actually, quite similar.
Yep, absolutely. Now, affectionately known as a Pig, but we've got to say he's the captaincy goat, I think.
Oh,
so,
I'll take
very,
it.
very well
That's
done.
good
there.
from you, JR.
Did you like that one, Phils?
JR's right there. Janath's right there.
I'm right here,
Gives
man.
him a drive-by.
The 2 goats.
No.
All right, boys.
Monkey's out of the bottle there, DR.
Here we go. Excited for this. Now, we are on to the mailbag, the Ask Us Anything mailbag, and the ultimate crossover here between the Swordplay crew and Pig from the Dr. Supercoach crew. So, boys, I'm just going to share my screen here. And I don't actually know how many questions.
I reckon there's a few now, DR. I reckon we got more than we think.
Got a few bills.
Yeah.
16 by the look of it there. So thank you very much, as always, to everyone that has sent through a question or a comment. Really appreciate you guys.
That's
here we go.
Jules,
you would know Jules from our community appreciation pod, one of our favourite members.
That's so
of the
good.
community. We love you, Pig. What's
going on there?
Look at the AI.
What's your plan next year to help the Supercoach community? So have you got any sort of different things in mind, mate, or just continuing with the Dr. Supercoach pods and your captaincy advice, mate? Anything that you want to mention here for the great Jules, mate? A big fan of yours, obviously.
Well, love you too, Crazy Frogs. I love seeing your stuff on Twitter, and he's someone that makes a few out there picks sometimes, which I think is really fun.
Absolutely.
It's good to have people doing that.
Plays it on his terms, boys. And we love that. We respect that.
Yeah, I love seeing that because, we don't want everyone to be vanilla. But no, in terms of content for next year, we haven't sat down really and had our chat about what we're going to do yet. I mean, I'm happy to keep doing what I was doing this year. The captain's obviously been a big hit, but, I'll sit down with the other 3 boys in the off-season. We'll work out what our plan is and we'll let people know. Beautiful, mate. And Jules, thank you very much, mate. You are a wonderful member of the community, mate. Absolutely love you here, mate. You know that. The next man talking about on the frog theme here is Frogger. G'day, mate. How are you, legend? G'day, fellas. Would be a bit complicated, but could you imagine a setup where all players get, say, 1-2 trades in the grand final week,
so that the two sides go in as close to evenly matched as possible? Or do you think it's just part of the game to choose whether you hold back 1 to 2? Spillsy,
no
what do
fun
you
in
reckon
that.
here, mate? What do you reckon?
Not too crash hot on that.
No deal. No,
No
he's
deal.
already given the old Andrew Denton there as well.
Andrew.
Yeah, bad boy.
Andrew Denton, that is a name I haven't heard.
Andrew O'Keefe? Is Andrew Denton a different person?
Oh,
Andrew
Denton. O'Keefe. Sorry,
Andrew
I've just
Denton.
given the wrong bloke a rocket there. But boys, very quickly, sorry.
Sorry to Andrew if
I
you're
was-
watching.
I was sorry, Dents. I was on Deal or No Deal, not as the person actually the main person. But
no way.
I had a briefcase.
Did you win $1,000? Did you get $1,000?
Well, how's this? Lisa the night before said,
I need this
Ryan,
vision.
You've got to. I've just had a dream. This is a true story. I've got a dream. You've got $2 in that briefcase. Promise me, because I was going to go 500. I think. Promise me that you'll say $2, and I'm like, all right, obviously do it for you. And then got to me, $2. Bang! Absolute winner. Absolute winner.
You got it.
The
They
$2.
gave you the cash.
Absolutely got it, mate. It did come through as well.
Is there a
Actually,
replay of the show,
500.
DR?
You need the footage.
I want to see the. I want to see the vision.
we need that.
How long ago was it? When was this?
Oh, mate, it would have been maybe, I'd say 7 to 10 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
It was that long. I was at my first school down there at Beveridge Primary. Shout out to everyone at Beveridge Primary. So, just a quick story.
Have been on a couple of times as well.
Have they really?
Yeah.
Very nice. My folks actually won Family Feud as well back in the early 90s. Got our dining room table still got there, and went on with Auntie and Uncle Jeff, Auntie Denise, and took it out. They went, I think, for a week and got the big prize, the dishwasher, I think, and very good. But we're all
winning quiz shows in the genetics.
It's in the family, Pig. Absolutely, mate.
We're a lot looser than your podcast, Pig.
Yeah, we go on tangents. It happens at least 3 times a pod.
Go on a big tangent, and that's
it.
why we're already at the time that we are. So let's go through this very quickly, boys. But Frogger, no deal from us, brother. Save your trades. Good on you, Frogger. Cheers, mate. Cutter, one of the biggest legends, as we know. Hey, guys, presuming Houston is suspended, absolutely is.
Yes.
She's ruled out, yes. And English reported more likely than not to play this week, as Janath mentioned before. Just curious, how many donuts are you going into grand final week with? Now, I don't want to brag, boys. 0, 2 on the bench, Cutter, hopefully.
Got loopholes going on, everything. Every line.
If one of Kerno or English plays.
Yeah,
if one of Kerno or English plays, I will have 1 donut. If Kerno and English play, I might feel Fraser ahead of one of the two. But it'll be 1 donut because, look, the defense, and this is the tough part, right? Sheasel didn't get that DP, the mid DPP. So Houston and Sheasel, both as defender only. Zach Reed plonked there as well. No way to move Will Dawson into that defense. It's like just carnage back there. So going to play with 5 defenders this week.
Holding Marty Hoare over Zach Reed, if you somehow did that.
Yeah,
what a kiss you got last week.
How about the rookies? Saved. Imagine you had a combination of Hoare, Humphreys, Fraser covering your lines.
Where was it?
Better than the Primos.
Isn't it? Absolutely it is. Pig, what are we thinking, buddy?
Well, I think I'll have 3.
3
it could even be 4 if Kerno's out. My team's cooked. So I've got Houston, Chad Warner, Tim English, Charlie Kerno are my 4 premiums. So
I feel for you, brother.
I'm just limping to the end, but that's what we do. We can't do anything about it.
No,
just got to smile and wave.
Smile and wave, boys.
Spillsy, you must be in a better position than Pig here, mate. Surely you've got better luck than poor old Pig.
Yeah, I was just going to say I was going to play the poor me card, but I think he's absolutely trumped me on the occasion. So I've got 2 donuts, boys. But look, season
we got a mix. We're on a gradient here.
Yeah.
I probably won't go on the app. Let's just say that I'll lock in a captaincy and. Yeah, I'll probably just.
Do you know what? Funny enough, Spills, the number 1 in the world's also doing that. They're gonna set their captain. I was listening to the Herald Sun podcast. They're gonna set their captain just That's the only thing in there to touch. And then they're not going to look at any scores this weekend.
Yeah.
140-point lead at the number 1 spot.
Oh,
We'll see.
Imagine
Nightmare.
being in that position. I've chatted to JP a lot and M, former winners as well. Lovely, lovely lady. One of the loveliest ladies you'll meet. And you can only imagine that the pressure, the excitement, the nerves, oh, geez. I want to be in that position one day. Hopefully, that's all their dream.
You will be, mate.
When it comes to this game. Alrighty. Thanks for that, Kata. All the best, buddy. Next one is from Maddie, another one of our favorites. Hey, Maddie, just over 14K in the bank with one trade. Houston appears to be the one I have to trade. Which defender or mid should I get? Anderson, the best option? Well, he was in some of our captaincy rankings here. Just shy of the top 5K overall best finish ever. Boys, would you give Noah Anderson the thumbs up there for Maddie?
Yeah, he's fine.
I would. Yep. I would like to do some maths and see if Nick Newman fits into that price range or not.
Just out, mate.
Yeah, Anderson, I think Anderson's fine. He Richmond can't go too badly wrong. Surely
6K,
he's going to cut him up to shreds.
Newman.
Dang. Okay.
Oh no, sorry. Wait, hold on. What is going on? Did you say how much? K 14.
Hang on,
Janath getting the calculator out.
Might not be over yet, boys.
No, I think it's 300 short.
$3,000
short.
Poor old Maddie's gone. Hang on. There's a chance. 300 short. Sorry, Maddie. We just got excited there for a sec, Janath.
Sorry, I thought Newman was slightly more expensive.
Okay, but we're all happy. We're giving the thumbs up for Noah Anderson this week.
He's your guy. Yep, that would be good.
All right, good on you, Maddie.
Yeah, I don't
thumbs
think
up
there's
that
any
one, legend.
I don't think there's any defenders I'd rather for Anderson's price. I'd rather Anderson.
Stick with Anderson, mate. Yep, beauty. Thanks, Maddie. Supercoach Crazy. Hey, buddy. Also, one more, please. Oh, so it's a one down the bottom as well. What is your best overall Supercoach rank you've ever had? Thank you again. Is that a sheep? Oh, it's a goat.
Goats.
Sheep. Yeah, goats. Thank you again. Goat.
4 sheep.
Yeah, reindeer, sheep. What's going on? All right, so mine is 33rd overall. A bit of a lucky year for me. Janath, do you know off the top of your head?
What year was that? There you are.
Oh, mate, it was 2014. 2014. Don't know how many players were playing back then. If there were more.
10-year anniversary.
It is, mate. It is. At least if I can finish in the top 1K, I'll be happy with that for the 10-year anniversary there, mate. Janath, how about yourself, mate? Do you can remember off the top of your head?
Yeah, 146th in the COVID year 2020 when we got 5 trades in 1 week.
Oh, is that right? Very nice. Very nice.
That year was the year of Max Gawn and Lockie Neal carrying BCC every single week.
Very, very nice.
Yeah.
Pig, you talked about a nice rank last year, mate. Is that your best ever?
Yeah, it was. Last year, 95th finish was my highest I've been. So it's also, we talk about, it's a bit funny trying to back up a good year like that. Then when the next year's not as successful, was a bit of pill to swallow at times. We've all had some yo-yos.
Absolutely right, mate. Absolutely right. Yeah. And I just noticed Spillsy. We've lost Spillsy for a sec. Hopefully, he can join us back then.
He didn't want to answer the question.
Yeah, he's gone, nah. I don't know. Spillsy.
Look at this.
I couldn't even tell you, but he's had a couple of really solid finishes, Spillsy. I know that much anyway. All right, next one, Maddie again. Hey, legends, are you going to be doing either of the AFLW fantasy platforms this season? Yes, I will, mate. I'm certainly not an expert when it comes to the AFLW, but what I like about it is it gives me a little bit more motivation to watch some of the matches, get to know some of the really, really talented ladies, and they are just getting better, let me say. So yeah, I'll definitely be getting involved. Pig, you do a bit of AFLW, do you, champion?
Yeah, I had a dabble at it last year, and same kind of thing. It makes you kind of pay attention, learn some of the names, watch some of the games. So I'll probably do it again. I also did. I'll be doing NBL Supercoach. I really enjoyed that last year. So off the AFL track, but I really enjoyed that. It's a very different format of how it works, but yeah, I'll still be doing a few of that.
I find it really fun, and just given the fact it's different, it's actually open, Pig, hasn't it? In the last
today.
Yeah, awesome. Janath, how about you, mate?
I would love to say yes, but I've sort of put my fantasy / Supercoach sort of other sports to the side just for this summer. I was just working on something important career-wise. So EPL the same, FPL the same way. So we just lay low in the summer for this time. Hopefully next year we'll be back into it.
Yep, more important priorities. Spillsy, AFLW Fantasy. You going to give it a crack, mate?
Believe it or not, boys, I actually have not played fantasy before. I think I had a crack at it for a couple of weeks, and I'm like, I don't know. I just can't get my head around the scoring system. I'm all about the efficiency of Supercoach. I love the efficiency. So
he doesn't like the
go.
pigs. Spillsy likes the efficient ones, not the pigs.
Exactly right. Yeah. So I don't know. I'll probably look at BBL Supercoach. That's the one I really enjoy. But
that's your go,
that's my go-to. But yeah, I'll probably be sitting out of that one, I reckon. But I don't mind,
mate.
Maybe do.
And I know, Matty, there will be a few people actually doing some content for AFLW Fantasy. I won't myself because I don't feel knowledgeable enough to do that. But I'll certainly be tuning in, mate, and I'll be sharing some of that great work from other people as well. Cheers, man. Johnny, one of the biggest legends around the Black Flag. How are you, man? Are you going to try to save trades early next season or still be aggressive, thinking that all trades are valuable no matter the time of the season? I'll be trying to save 3 trades and a boost for the last round, doing a bit of a jakey boy there, since I could really use them for my 4 grand finals right now. Pig, I know you were saying before, mate, that this year you've almost changed your approach and almost lost some of your Supercoach values or principles, I suppose you'd say, mate. How do you feel about the? Is that something you're planning on doing potentially next year? Maybe a little bit less aggressive at the start and trying to save some trades. I know that's ideal. We'd always love to save some trades and circumstances happen, all the rest. But are you thinking of maybe easing up on the aggression next year, mate? Or is that something you've considered?
Potentially a bit. It's probably not necessarily easing up on the aggression because I think, we always talk about upgrade cadence, and that first week everyone's upgrading. You want to be upgrading too, so you're not falling a premium behind. So I don't really want to fall back on that, but it's probably more backing our preseason research and not jumping off the Grundys and the Nick Martins and the Hayden Youngs, not ruining our lack of trades through that. We chose those guys at the start of the year for a reason, and they've turned out to be really, really good picks in the long run. Or even in the short term after we traded them out. So the answer is yes, I will be trying to, when I was playing leagues, I tried to have 4 trades for the final 4 weeks. So a trade a week.
Yep, nice.
I would like to be able to do that again, but I'm not sure if it's actually realistic if you're going for rank. I'm not sure what John's playing for, but if you're playing purely for leagues, I think absolutely saving some trades. There's guys that still have a rookie on field in round 19, kind of before the finals start. And that's fine because you just got to make finals. And then you can get that rookie off field in the first week of finals with the 4 or 5 trades you got left. So it does depend what you're playing for. Trying to juggle the league wins and the ranking is tough. I think some people that go fully for one or the other probably have some more success. But setting your goals. And I would like to keep a few more next year.
Great advice, mate. Spillsy, you hoping to save a few more, mate, towards the back end of the season in 2025?
No, Pig definitely took the words out of my mouth there. That was literally the point I was going to make. So I think you don't want to be any less aggressive because you don't want to be one behind of the comp. That's what happened to me this year, and it hurt. But it's saying that sideways trading, it's critical because they all come back and burn you. So they've all caught up with me. Maybe Fish is the one that, you probably, but even on the weekend, he scored great. So, look, the principle's there. I think you just stick fat. So, but I do think 3 trades is ambitious. I'd like to keep, for overall, I think I want to have at least 1 for the last round. Just 1.
So at least a trade you'd like, not necessarily saying to bank the 3.
That's my view.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice. Janath,
yeah.
You're going to change your approach next year in any way, shape, or form in regards to the way that you've traded, or obviously with your overall rank, you're doing something pretty right at the moment anyway, mate?
I guess one of the reasons why I'd say I'm being able to be at this rank is I haven't changed the way I've played with the extra trades. I've played the exact same way, just accommodating for those extra trades and maybe upgrading a week, starting the upgrade cadence a week earlier and cashing on rookies even if they're not at their peak price. Is something, but also holding some of the rookies a bit longer as well, like a McKercher. I think it was the week where he scored 6 and he got injured, and we were like, you can either trade him out now at his price or you can wait 4 weeks down the line to cash him in, and then he went big. So something like that. I think the thing with John's question is it's so hard it's easier said than done because you're like, I want to bank 3 trades and a boost for the last round. But when everyone else around you is trading and you've got this really hot property, undervalued premium that's available right there with 2 trades, and you say no to it, and you're like, you get FOMO, and it doesn't make the game fun. Like right now, it would be fun if you had 3 trades, but if it's at the sacrifice of not having fun halfway through the season, I don't know. I don't really know what the answer to that is. You'd be lucky to get into the final week with a trade, let alone 3. So I think you may be a bit ambitious, as Spills was saying.
Yeah, so Johnny, I think an ideal world, mate, absolutely would love to. But circumstantial. Sometimes it's just carnage, mate, that you just can't help, unfortunately. But
look,
cheers
like
for the question,
last year, DR, when we had a trade, you weren't trading an injured premium to another one. You were going for the Taylor Walker, like the splash plays. This year, out of necessity, most coaches are trading out an English, a Sheasel, Houston. They're just like, we just needed to have the trade. Last year, you didn't need to have the trade. You was a luxury trade that you had.
Good point, mate. Good point.
Exactly.
All right. Next one is from Supercoach Crazy again. Hey, Goats, my question is, what different sports have you played yourselves? How many games have you played? And what's the highest level you have played at? Thank you for all your hard work this year. All right, I suppose I'll start off here. So I've played a heap of sports. So main two are footy and basketball. Played some tennis, done some karate, did some gymnastics when I was a little fella as well. Probably forgetting something, a bit of school cricket as well, but always afraid of the cricket ball, boys. Don't know why that is, but don't mind getting head smashed in football. Highest level, so basketball, I played a decent level, Vic Champs, and then was on the Melbourne Tigers junior development squad for a while. Footy played over 250 games. Highest levels probably in the juniors. Played a couple of games with the Knights. Bit of region sort of footy. So that's probably my 2 big ones, boys. Janath, sports for you, mate, and bit of a history of your glamorous career.
Yeah, I guess started off playing basketball from about 8 till 20, a couple of years ago, and then sort of work and studies sort of took over that. Highest level with that was probably representative.
Very nice.
In the Keilor sort of district. Cricket, loved cricket. Loved being like bowling, like opening bowler. Yeah. I would say
Janath
not a handy hit at the end with the willow.
It's intimidating. He's not short, Janath, is he? He's a pretty tall man. So there.
I'll be rattled.
So being able to, I guess my favorite part about playing cricket was being a captain, like being able to just control the field, and that's something that in baseball as well. So
you'd be good at that.
School to state championships as a catcher. So
nice.
that was one of my. That's one of my fond memories is baseball because like not many people play it, but I'd say it's a much more fun sport to play than to watch. And the opposite one for me is tennis. Like I just can't stand playing it, but I love watching it. So and the other one there's table tennis. So those are sort of my 4 sports: cricket, basketball, table tennis, baseball. Footy, played it when I was like 8. We're in the St. Bernard's Old Collegians long sleeve Brendan Favola jersey. I played about 5 games then. I was like too scared of the ball. My parents took me out of that pretty quickly.
Early retirement, mate. Quit while you're ahead, mate, on top of the game. I like it, mate. Pig, any sporting history from you, mate?
Yeah, I played a lot of sport growing up. Cricket, basketball, footy a lot, and athletics, kind of the throwing of the athletics, the shot put.
Nice,
at high school. Then through uni, I dropped a few of those and was mainly social basketball, but still footy at a fairly high level. Actually, at high school, I guess the highest level I got, under 16 state team for Tasmania, made like the final 40 cut, but then got a knee injury and didn't. I don't know if I would have made. I don't know if I would have made the team away. I probably wouldn't have. I was probably just on that borderline. But we'll never know. But yeah, Tassie state level under 16s. And then I guess even through uni, still playing at a fairly high level for footy. I've now kind of into my 30s playing less contact sports, and I've actually got into triathlons over the last 2 years. So that's something I'm really enjoying.
Jeez.
Done a few sprint
That's
triathlons
awesome.
and an Olympic distance triathlon earlier in the year, which was a lot of fun.
Mate, well,
Man
I'd
of
say
many
the
talents.
presence of greatness
Wowee.
here. Yeah, there we go. Spillsy, tell us about a bit of your history, mate. I know you're very good on the track yourself.
Yeah, don't quite have the variety of sports that you boys have. Obviously, we got Sensei DR over here with the karate and all these random ones. Janath for the table tennis and triathlons. I can't compete with any of that. I've only really stuck at 2, but I've sort of specialised in 2 sports. So obviously footy. So yeah, I play footy at the moment. The highest I got with that was, well, I made the Bendigo Pioneers squad when I was 17, but never really played. Bit undersized and yeah, a lot of boys to pick from. So didn't quite get up there, but that's probably about as good as it gets there. But athletics is probably the main one. Back when I was living down Phillip Island way, I did represent Gippsland in the States for 200 meter. But then as I got older, I turned into a 100 meter sprinter and actually broke my PB last year or last summer before I got plantar fasciitis. But yeah, just 100 meter sprint, boys. That's the.
Come on, give us a number. Give us a number.
Yeah, what's the PB?
We want a time.
Here we go.
So it was a 11-2-1, boys. So and that was I can't remember.
That's rapid.
Yeah,
That's quick.
It's someone my size anyway, and I got the quickest 60 meter sprint time in Bendigo too. I think it was like 7.2 seconds or something like that. So
that is the most random stat I've ever heard. I've got like the 60 meter record in Bendigo.
Yeah, it is a random one, but I think it's just a.
That's an ESPN stat.
Is an ESPN stat? I think I lack that height, so obviously off the mark is where it's at. So they're the only real 2 sports that I do. So footy and athletics, boys. But I wish I was a little bit more versatile. But yeah, they're the ones. So
3 very talented blokes and me on this podcast at the moment.
Oh,
so,
come on.
Very nice.
You played for the Northern Knights. What are you talking about?
A couple of games and got cut, mate. Nothing too special.
That's a couple of games more than me.
That's a couple of games
right, man.
Me as well.
Bunch of duds in my region there must have been, mate. Not much competition. I think if that was the case.
All
right, next one we've got here is from Brazen. How are you, mate? Piggy, the song. Oh, we talked about the song. The song in your VC captain videos is unreal. Will it ever drop? Whoever made it has serious talent. Love your work, DR. Can't wait for the pod. Cheers, mate. Piggy, can you give us a bit of background with the song, mate? Or
Look, all of the songs, there's that one that's at the end of the captain's video, but throughout the year, there's also been 4 kind of one for each podcaster that have dropped. I can't remember what rounds we put them out at the start of the podcast, but they're all Chizo's work. He's the mastermind behind all the sounds and everything that he does.
Chizo
so
on the decks.
I still don't actually know. Yeah, I don't know if it's him singing. I don't know if it's AI. I've never actually dug into it, but he's a man of many, many talents, and he does all the kind of behind the scenes audio editing work for Dr. Supercoach, as well as jumping on some podcasts. So that's a Chizo special. And look, you're not the first person to ask. There's been a few people who say, can we get that on Spotify? I want to, put it on when I go for a run or something. So maybe I'll ask Chizo, see what we can do.
I love that, mate. What a talented man Chizo is, an absolute all-rounder, as are all the blokes on the DRSC podcast. Cheers, mate, and I'm with you, mate. Just love hearing the song. Johnny, again, hey, legends. Interested to know what you play for the most, rank or league glory. I tend to want to do well in both. Is that bad? No, it's not bad at all, mate. Nothing wrong with wanting to do well in both. I try to win the top 5% rank-wise. Great goal, mate. Make finals and hopefully win a grand final. So, look, I'm always overall. There were probably, I reckon, 3 or 4 years back there I played specifically for league because I won't say what the amount was, but it was, $100 cash league was an absolute minnow compared to some of the cash leagues that I was in. Big money. So I used to literally look at what my opponent was doing each week. And back in the day, you had the fixture there. So I knew who I was playing in what round. I don't believe you can see that now, can you, boys? They just give you the latest one. So I can't tell in round 5 who I'm playing in round 10, can I?
No, it's a good point. Maybe.
And I used
too
to
late
set
now.
myself up.
Can't really. I
Yeah,
think you
well, I
can
used to set
actually
myself
see.
up for it.
There's a way, because what you can do is if you go to, I think it's game day, and in the bottom right corner they have, or somewhere they have your matchups, and then you can just
Really?
go through and you can just change the round. Yeah.
I did not
there's
realise
something
that,
like
mate.
that.
I
I
didn't
forgot where it
realise
is.
that. There you go.
Oh, is
There you
it
go.
leagues?
But yeah, look, for
Yeah,
me,
there we
Johnny,
go. It is in leagues.
always been overall, mate. Pig, you mentioned before, mate,
But,
you were
yeah.
predominantly a league player back in the day, mate.
Yeah, I was for most of the time I've been playing, but the last 2 years, as my league teammates have kind of stopped playing, yeah, I've been going for rank. So I'd say now I'm pretty much all about the rank, but they do often go hand in hand. Like if you are flying and
Good
have a good
point.
rank,
Yeah.
like Janath's finding out this year, then you're often winning all your finals matchups anyway. So you can do both, certainly.
Spillsy.
There's a fine balance. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Sorry.
No,
I was gonna say,
continue.
there's a fine
Continue,
balance.
mate.
There's a fine balance between the two, because you can sort of burn yourself out trades really chasing rank where you come at the detriment off league. Whereas I think like an ideal balance, I think this is sort of what sums up my season is. A couple of weeks ago, I had the option either to cop the donut from who was it, McGovern, but I traded McGovern to Sinclair, wanting to go for rank. And looking back on it, it was the right decision because McGovern's out this week anyway. But if I was playing for league, I would have held that trade because I was in an okay position rankings-wise in those leagues anyway, but I wanted to maximize my rank at that point in time. So holding that trade one back for this round would make more sense if it was going for league. But in rankings terms, it doesn't make any difference really, because it's 1 week of extra score that I would have got that week or this week.
Very good, mate. Spillsy, overall play, mate, for you? Not too focused on the leagues?
Yeah, well, last year, like leagues worked out really good for me. But I think at the end of the day, it's always been overall, like setting myself a goal of trying to get the highest possible rank each year. It's sort of what I've got my heart set on. Leagues are nice, especially when you got a cash league and you got stuff to play for. But I think for me, it means a little bit more the higher your rank can be. And yeah, that's just me anyway. I was chatting to a rep today at work, and he only plays for leagues. He's ranked 36K, I think he said, but he's in a handful of grand finals. So there's no right or wrong way to do it. But personally, I do like the overall concept of it.
Yep. Nice, mate. Beautiful. Next one is from my man, Miller Time. Great Brisbane Lions fan. Can you please fix the lines, preferably before 7:30 Saturday? Thanks in advance, Lions fan. Well, mate, in good news, Lockie Neal, Chocky, we did mention in the captaincy section. I think Dunkley hopefully should have a good game this week, mate. Joey, we want to give him the 3 votes. So, look,
They've
mate.
got the Dons. They're going to smash them. I'm sorry, but there's no way. There's no way.
Mill, I'm worried, man. I must admit I'm worried. But look, hopefully at the Gabba, we'll be right, mate. And who knows what happens from there, mate. Remember, you think back to the first 7 games of the season, to be in the position to finish 5th, I think every Brisbane Lions fan probably would have taken it, mate. So probably that's the way I try to look at it in a positive way, Mill. But hopefully hit form again, mate. Kamo18, g'day, Kamo. How are you, mate? Legends of Lodvia. Appreciate you, brother. Who's the best available option to come in? Stewart, Jordan Clark, Yo, or Newman? Well, 4 pretty decent options there, mate. Also, if my Oppo has a donut, am I better off trading in someone who he already has on field or go head-to-head with different uniques? Oh, interesting. Well, look, we probably say it's out of Stewart or Newman, boys.
We covered it pretty promptly earlier on.
Yeah.
Stewart's the one.
I think for us both, it's Stewart.
Yeah. Stewart,
awesome. Newman.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting. That second question is an interesting one because it's like your opponent has a donut, so theoretically you'd be going at it 4 versus 3 anyway. But if you match one of his players, you'd be going at 3 versus 2. So it's like, do you rather give a bit more variability with that third player or just match them? If that's your sole goal is to win this head to head, then I think almost matching them and making it a 3 versus 2 compared to a 4 versus 3 is better.
Yeah, it's real defensive, but I like that strategy.
You're really playing defensive, yeah.
That's only if you're going for that league. If that's that one cash league that you're in and it's the be all or end all and your rank's sort of mediocre like mine, then I like that idea. Just trading the one guy that's unique and that'll help. Yeah, that's really good.
But at the same time, I would say that a 4 versus 3 and you're getting Stewart as a unique compared to a 3 versus 2 and you're getting Jordan Clark as a matchup blocker. I would be going Stewart in that case and making a 4 versus 3 because Stewart's probably going to score more than Clark this week anyway.
Yeah,
if
that's
and the
actually
only advice I'd give is just leave it as late as possible because the more information you're able to get, that may give you make you swing one way or the other.
Yeah.
I was
all the best of luck, buddy.
I've got, I guess, a slightly different view on that, and Janath kind of maybe led into it a little bit. Is that maybe I just don't really try and look at who's unique or who's different. I actually just try and bring in the guy who's going to score most this week. I mean, I know that sounds simple.
Nah,
but
it's simple.
I try and try and not worry about what they're doing too much, and just bring in the guy who I think will score the most because he'll give me the best chance of winning.
Beautiful, mate. Love it.
That's one way to think of it, anyway.
Well, no, mate, a very good way to think of it. Absolutely, mate. Causa Blackledge, the ladies' man. How are you, buddy? One question is for Pig. How are you so good at recommending the VC and captain each week, as I want to get better at it for 2025? So, Pig, what makes you so good, mate? Blow your own horn a little bit here, brother.
Well, actually, I did see this question coming up, and I was really keen to, I guess I can talk about what I do, and then also I'd be keen for Janath to chat and kind of explain his thought process and how he gets to his recommendations as well. So we can probably give both of those answers to Corey. But for me, I guess it's kind of three-pronged. The first one is looking at matchup data and targeting the teams that are giving up a lot of points to those positions. DFS Australia and also Supercoach Gold have some really good data on terms of that, or even Moreira's Magic if you sign up for Selby's
legend,
Selby's season pass that all goes to charity as well. So a little shout out to Selby.
Awesome.
So there's a lot of different ways you can get that matchup data, and it's targeting guys that are playing teams that are really giving up points. So Melbourne at the moment are giving up so many points to midfielders. So anytime a gun midfielder comes up against Melbourne, you look there first. But it's also targeting guys that are like in really good form and on a hot streak. And I actually had a middle part of the year where I kind of went away from that a little bit, and I kind of, I guess, lost my direction a little bit. I got so focused on just targeting the matchups that I kind of ignored a player's form, which was a bit of a mistake, because I remember there was a period there where Caleb Sarong, I think he had a 5-round average of 90, but he was coming up against Richmond. And I was like, well, Richmond are the easiest team. He's going to dominate them. But I didn't really take into account that he wasn't in good form. So I think that is really important. And like Cherry now, for example, is in the hottest of hot form. He gets, I wouldn't care who he's playing, really. I'd still consider
tag team of Max Gawn and Dean Cox, mate, in his prime. You'd still go Cherry, wouldn't you, the way he's going?
Yeah. So for me, they're the two main ingredients. It's the who they're playing, looking at the matchup data, but also looking at the form, which you can get that pretty easily by sorting by 3-round or 5-round average, or in the Supercoach app, you can even sort by and how they've scored at that venue throughout their career, or how they've scored against that opponent throughout their career. So they're really good ones. But then I guess I put a bit of like my own gut feel and intuition on it as well, because not as much. I'm more on that data side, but sometimes I look at the data and I go, no, that's not right. Like last week, it was DFS. If you were searching by last 5, it was saying that Rowan Marshall's a really restrictive matchup. And just from my years of doing this, I know Rowan Marshall is not a restrictive matchup for ruckman. He doesn't win that many hit-outs. He, allows his opponents to score really well. So there is sometimes, I guess, a little bit of a lens to put over the data and say, is that actually true? And that's just, I guess, from a bit of experience. But generally, it's those two key pillars of a player's form. And I know it's probably a good lead into Janath. I believe Janath looks probably a bit more about, like, you look at the last 3 at that ground and then the last 3 against that opponent. I haven't done that as much, but it does kind of give another weighting to maybe a tiebreaker or push me towards that player. So what's your secret sauce, Janath?
I think one of the major reasons... I reckon one of the major reasons why we align a fair bit in our captain sort of rankings is on those three things. So past matchup data, form, and then the gut feel. I'll just delve into them a bit differently. So in terms of our matchup data, we really look at past three, which is sort of the indicator of form, past three against the opposition, which is like the indicator of how they go against that team. But you have to think with the caveat that the midfield matchups may have changed. There may be a new ruck.
Yeah.
There's plenty of different things. You have to consider what ground that was at, and that leads into the last three scores at that ground. So taken together, that's what we look at. And then we look at the DFS last five data. So that's specifically, like Pig was saying, it's a good indication, but at the same time, you've got to investigate deep into what, like, is it a specific player that's sort of the outlier that causes that trend? But that's specific for the position they play in the AFL. So, for instance, you look at a designated kicker and you can't compare them with a general defender because they play different roles, and the opposition may be more prone to giving up points to one of those positions and not the other. And then you have the Supercoach Gold, which is for like the total players off that team that are like defenders, for instance. And typically that's one that I like, but also don't really like because it's for the whole season. Two, players' roles change, and three, it categorizes your Harris Andrews just as equally as it does your Dara Joyce's. Like, they're not the same. So, that's one of the things. I probably give matchup data about a 40% weighting. I give form. Ross and I, we give form about a 40% weighting, and then I think there's the intangible. What I like, the gut feel intangible side of things, which gets that 20% weighting in terms of as the tie. That's the main tiebreaker for me. So what I'm thinking about that is past week performance. Did that player have a good game last week? Did they have a poor game? Is that player that in the past is a prideful player? So like a Bont, if he goes a 90 and he's tagged out of a game and the Bulldogs lose, more often than not, he'll have a big game the following week. And that really goes strongly for captains. So most of the captains are midfielders in the AFL. You're talking like your Dawson, Neil, Cripps, Merritt. I can go on and on. But off that lot, I would say that a Connor Rozee as a captain is not the same as a Marcus Bontempelli, Zach Merritt, Patrick Cripps, Lachie Neale as a captain.
Yeah.
If one of those teams, if Port has a bad loss the following week, I wouldn't expect Connor Rozee to have a 150 the next week. He's just not that kind of leader just yet. But with like one of the other teams, more often than not, if they're not tagged, they're probably going to go for that big score there. Rivalry games, massive one. I think. Go on, Pig. You going to say something?
Oh, no, I was just going to go on with that. I do that as well. I agree with your weightings, probably 40, 40, 20. And the 20% intangibles, like, for example, last weekend, Patrick Cripps was one of my top recommendations because he was the captain of the team that needed a win to make finals. They just came off a belting and they were getting crucified in the media. So they're not data things, but they're like intangibles. You can kind of paint the narrative sometimes. And like, I don't know, we talked about Gold Coast wanting a win this week to have their most successful season ever. That could happen. It could not. Like but
hypotheticals.
Yeah,
and
they still give us a weight.
Yeah,
the best example there, mate, isn't it? Like Zach Butters last week. Like the matchup data was good, but there's always that risk. Like, is he any better than Jack Sinclair? And so that was what I was pondering for my VC last week. I'm like, what pushed me over the edge? Rivalry game. It's probably going to be a close game. That's typically how derbies, showdowns, Q clashes are. Like Carlton, Collingwood, Essendon, Carlton, Essendon, any of these games, they're normally closer than blowouts. You don't really see blowouts in rivalry games all too much. In fact, you probably sometimes see the underdog win because the emotion is just so high in those games. And so all of those, I think Pig and I, we both touched on just the main points. You can look at form, you can look at the matchup data, but I think it's also important to look at the intangible things that you can't really quantify. And it's sort of, I guess it sort of helps that we're all from some form of sporting background because you understand the psyche of a sportsman. Like if you're competitive, you just go in, you're not going to just lay low and not bounce back the following week, right? So I think that sort of intangible side of things is the real tiebreaker, but I think we covered most of it, Causa. Hopefully that helps for you next year, and we'll we'll timestamp that for you as well, so you can figure out exactly what we talked about.
A deep dive into the
Bloody
two
oath.
best Supercoach captain brains in the land. So great question, Causer. And Janath and Pig, that was a fantastic listen as well, legends. All right, we've got 3 more, boys. Supercoach Battlers, how are you, mate? Well done on another Super Year Legends. Appreciate you, mate. 97K in the bank, 1 trade left, and in the Cashy Grand Final. Who helps me get it done? If Sheasley's out, I could bring in Sherry and bench Grundy.
Grundy.
Oh, please do it.
Problem.
Do
I
it.
think Grundy might
Do
get
it.
dropped, to be honest. Wouldn't
Oh.
be surprised.
Oh,
Are we all,
would
are
that
we all
mean Fielding, Lawson, Humphreys though? But it's against West Coast. I mean, it's not the worst matchup.
No, yeah,
I just can't see what his uniques are.
Jeez,
That's
it's
all.
hard to see, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It looks like Humphreys and Cameron. Oh, that's interesting. That could make or break. Honestly, you'd probably bring in Cherry, wouldn't you, to match your opponent?
Yeah, I think
I would.
it's probably the question of like Fielding, Humphreys, and then bringing in Cherry. So those two, or is it Grundy and then I don't know, primo defender like Stewart or Newman? I think I'd back the Humphreys and the Cherry just because
I would too.
I'm quite
Yeah,
okay with
I would
Humphreys
too.
against West Coast.
Yeah.
Check out your opponent and see, like, he might be a
Let's-
Houston owner with no trades. Like, you don't know.
Is
He
there
could be an
Houston
all-
in there? No. Both of those
There
teams are
isn't?
very good. They're very set up for this week. There's no
Yeah.
English. There's no
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
Canos. It's a pretty good matchup.
No, I like the
Yeah.
Cherry.
I think we're all saying.
Nah, Cherry. Yeah. If you can afford him, yeah, bloody oath.
I think we're all
Grundy's
saying bringing
cool.
Cherry.
Grundy's
and
cool.
Janath and I are both saying VC Cherry in our
Yeah.
captain recommendations.
VC Cherry. Wait. I just
Yeah.
have to
Another
confirm,
good
is it-
point. You bring
is
in,
it North?
well, one of the best top 2 options in both of the GOAT's opinions with that one. So, yeah, nice work there.
Just
mate,
very
and
quickly,
hopefully I
DR,
don't
if you
tap them
just
too
pause
much.
it there, I just want to have a look. Is that Rayner as well? It looks like Cam Rayner against Essendon. So there are some pods that
Yeah.
really, I reckon, need to fire for
Yeah, that could hurt him.
to win. Compared
Oh,
to the
he's
other
too.
team,
Cam Rayner.
the other team's very solid. Wow. It's a
Yeah.
great team.
Jeez,
Both
you-
those
it's
teams are good. Yeah.
scary not having Sherry as well, isn't
Yeah.
it? All the best, buddy. Hopefully you're
All
not
the best,
battling
mate.
too much this week. Cheers, man. 2 more to go. Richard Lau, I'm going to say there.
Yeah.
Longing.
Wow,
G'day, Rich. How are
yeah.
you, mate? Can you rank the best options trading overall between mids and backs? Absolutely
Done.
done that, mate. Seeing as I have a defensive mid swing and can
Yeah.
bring in either. So absolutely done that in our trading section. Appreciate the question there, brother.
Just to summarize, that would probably be Stewart or Newman as a defender, or Anderson or Newcomb as a midfielder.
Or
Yes?
Neil.
Or Neil, if you have the money. Yeah.
Yep. Beautiful. Beautiful. All right. And last one is from Rolly Van Rookel. I haven't said Rookel, Rockel. Janath, you got any idea how to pronounce this? Is it Norwegian, are we? Or
It
it
is
Rokel?
Dutch. It would be Dutch, I reckon.
Dutch?
Van is
Dutch.
Van
Van
normally Dutch.
Rokel or something like
Van
that.
Rokel is
Well,
good work,
it's
Spillsy.
Ruyen, isn't it? Not Van.
What is it? R2 Boston Lagi?
Oh,
Yeah.
Spills.
I think
Go.
it's like, Boston Villagi or something like that. It's been a long time since I've said his name. It's like 3 years since he was on a list. So,
Yeah, like
it's not, it's a random one.
that was one of Spills'
Boston
flexes,
and
like
Lagi.
early days. The fact that
Yeah.
he pronounced it beautifully, and I'd always go R2, whatever R2D2.
Yeah.
So very nice there, Spillsy. G'day, fellas. Cheers for the incredible season. Cheers for watching, mate, and listening. We appreciate you. Would be very interesting to see a side by side what teams you four started this year and how different they looked at the end of the season. My question, and just on this very quickly, mate, that's something we might do next week, boys. If we
Next
can get
week,
maybe
yeah.
a screenshot of our starting team, finishing team. Spills and I did a quick count. I think I've got 8 players that I started with.
I had 8 as well.
Yeah,
started.
Does
we
it
talked
count
about
players that you traded in and back, traded out and back
They
in?
don't count. They
No,
don't count.
we weren't including
count.
Mark.
Players that you've held the whole season.
Oh,
held the
yeah.
whole season.
Janath? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Question is,
Eight.
if you could
Start to
win a
finish.
gold
Yeah,
medal
8
in the
for me as well.
Olympics, what would it be for and why? Spillsy, surely you're going with your event here in the Olympics,
Yeah.
mate, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
Is there anything else that you'd go for?
Oh, there's nothing else I could do. The man at my stature, it's 100 meter or nothing. So, but
100 meter or nothing?
I still feel like I'd just get blown out of the water. But yeah, if I could, 100 be where it's at. Anything for a single digit time. That's just some of those guys are
Oh,
crazy.
yeah.
I know how
Very
they do
nice,
it.
mate. Very nice. Pig,
What about you, man?
if you could have a gold medal, any event, mate, in the Olympics, what are you winning gold for? What are you on the podium for, mate?
Well, I can kind of read this question two ways. I could read it as what would you like to be able to win it in, or what would you be most likely or
Yeah.
closest to be able to get
A
to?
couple of different scenarios, mate. Yes, I like it.
Yeah, so
Oh,
if I could choose anything to win a gold medal in, it would probably be the triathlon, just because I'm really in love with the sport at the moment and enjoying that. That would just be. I wouldn't want to swim in the Seine River like they had to, but
Oh,
winning a
jeez,
gold
that's
medal in the
right.
triathlon for me would be great. What I'm most closest to being able to do, and it's still a long way off, but the skeet shooting probably. I actually grew up skeet shooting and did a lot of that growing up, so
There
I'm
we
nowhere
go.
near their level, but I'm not horrible.
You have your
Very
hand in your
impressive.
pocket where you shoot the gun and no eye protection, just straight up.
The
I
skeet
reckon
one's
that's
the
pistol, isn't it?
yeah. The skeet one's the shotgun shooting where the
yeah,
focus are
right.
going across.
Yeah, got him twisted. I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good, mate. Definitely rounder. We found that out a bit.
Yeah, I've
this
tried my
podcast.
hand at a lot of things.
Tell you what, mate. Very good, Janath. What are we picking here, mate? What do you reckon?
The sport
Basketball.
that I would love to win it in is like basketball. When I was growing up, yes, is like a regret not taking basketball more seriously from a younger age.
Yeah,
Obviously, if you can win gold medal in table tennis, I feel like you make your Asian parents very proud.
absolutely.
But the sport, and this might be very random, but the sport I love watching most at the Olympics, and as a sports fan, I just love all the sports that come about. It's very random, but handball. I love handball.
That's so
sweet.
fun.
Nice,
as a team sport, like the amount handball and water polo, because water polo is like swimming and handball put together. And I've heard some wicked stories about what people like get scratches and stuff underwater because they're like getting clawed at the whole time. But handball just feels like a super end-to-end game, non-stop, like for real. That would be so cool. Like the camaraderie there. Like there's all these European teams that do really well because you don't really see like handball coming up. People are playing handball at a young age in Australia, but love it. So it's those two probably, table tennis or handball, I'd say.
Very, very nice. Look, for me,
Yourself,
I reckon I
Priya?
could do better than Ray Gun. Just
Ray-
quietly, I reckon I could
Ray
get in the breakdancing scene there and maybe do a bit better than the old kangaroo and the snake, whatever it was, throw in there as well. So maybe a bit of breakdancing for me. And do you know what I really love watching? Very, very quick, the event is the speed climbing. How quickly these people get up that wall is just phenomenal and unbelievable. But I think the big one is probably, you know, the 100-meter sprint's a big one, and maybe the 100-meter freestyle in the pool. I think they're probably the two really big events that lots of the world really tunes into. And probably the skateboarding. Wouldn't mind, because I've never been able to skateboard. So, yeah, I'd like to be a little bit cooler.
How about
and
this
be able
way?
to skateboard.
Which sport do you feel like, if you hadn't played the sport before, and you can't say breakdancing, which sport do you feel you'd be most capable of going to the Olympics for? Like
after a few beers, definitely breakdancing has
After a
to be.
few
I said
beers,
you can't say breakdancing.
I know, but it has to be.
Most capable.
Like you could compete, like you wouldn't be out of place.
I reckon probably the 800 for me. Probably the 800.
Okay.
I've always been half decent with the running. Yeah, probably I'll go the 800 is probably what I'm most suited at. But yeah, I'd say speed climbing, but I'm afraid of heights, so that I don't think that would really work for me. Boys,
cycling is an interesting one.
Yeah,
like in the
yeah, I
Valentine.
don't mind a bit of a cycle, actually, mate. I don't mind
like
that
if
at
you
all.
have the front, you just put your shoulders out a little bit, just nudge them out. Just
I reckon 50 meter like freestyle. I think that would be mine.
Bit of a 50 meter freestyle.
You're getting cooked, Spillsy. They're going to be at
Nice
the
and
end of the pool by the time you're halfway.
It's a burst. Yeah.
Oh, I tell you.
Yeah, I'll cop that. Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I'm going to spend like literally, because I know we need to finish this, 30 seconds on this story, right? Bit of an old love story of mine back in primary school in grade 6. We went to the old, you know, you do the old swimming lessons in primary school, right? And so I was going out with a lovely girl in grade 6, the first girlfriend I've ever had. And we went to this to our swimming day, right? And so what happens is you get put in 3 groups. You had the sharks, the stingrays, and the turtles. Boys, I was a turtle. Let me tell you, I struggled to do the old doggy paddle, right? So anyway, there was this big, like, floating obstacle course on the pool, on this big pool. And Grant Coulthard, bloody Grant Coulthard, absolutely smashed this course like an Ironman, like a triathlete, like pig here. And poor old DR was scrambling through, doggy paddling through this, blah, 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 blah. So about 5 minutes after I'd finished the course, Renee Henderson came up to me and just gave me the old tap on the shoulder. DR, look, Rainey's not really interested now. She's liking the look of Grant Coulthard here because he's a little bit stronger here. So, mate, you jumped unfortunately. See you later, DR. Out DR in Grant Coulthard, and a shout out to you, great man, who I just saw the other week after about 15 years, I reckon. So, don't love the swimming pool, boys. Don't have great memories.
Is she still with Renee?
No. Long time. So bad luck to you too. That serves you right. No, I'm happy for them. Whatever happens.
She could have been a Supercoach wag. DR.
Her loss.
The one that got away.
The one that got away. A very happy man. Now, let me tell you, boys, that is it for the podcast. Now, before we get into some final words, I just did. All of us just quickly wanted to go through this and just give a big shout out to the great JD. Now, JD is fine, he's healthy, and all the rest. But after 4 great years of content creating, he's now going to have a little bit of a break, at least in 2025. I think we've all got our fingers crossed that he will be back. Maybe a little bit of time after that, after he has a break. But JD, just on behalf of us, mate, I know I can say personally that I'm a regular watcher of every one of your videos, mate. It's a really big part of my weekly viewing Supercoach routine. And, the data that you go through, mate, I think you've got one of the best Supercoach minds in the game. Love the way that you play it, mate. You don't necessarily always agree with what everyone else is doing, but you normally stick to your gut, stick to your way, mate. And you'll be sadly missed in the content creating community. I'm hoping that possibly, mate, you'd be interested in a guest appearance on the Swordplay Potty next year. But, mate, I just want to personally say thank you very much, mate, for everything you've done for the community. A big fan of your work, mate. And, you will be sorely missed with all the content that you're doing. Anyone else want to jump in here, boys, and give a bit of a shout for JD?
Yeah, no, JD is just a ripper bloke. Met him a couple of times, and also a Don Sporter, so we love that. And the work he's done on his channel is unbelievable. And he come from the clouds. He just jumped on YouTube, and then felt like within a few months he's at 2K subscribers, and just got a really good read on the game. Doesn't sugarcoat things either. He's not too ambitious. He just sort of has his take and he sticks with it. And he's usually like really on the money. So I can completely understand why he's putting it aside. Obviously, your family commitments and other things. It is hard. Yeah, another reason people, if you've been living under a rock, I haven't got rid of it, but I haven't been on my YouTube channel because it just takes up so much of your time. And if you're doing a podcast, you can't do anything else like outside your other life. So it's a massive commitment. Kudos to anyone that does it. So there's no hard feelings, and it's awesome what he's done for us. And we're definitely going to miss him. And yes, DR, we'd love to hopefully have him on the Swordplay podcast. That would be that'd be magnificent.
Absolutely. Pig, you obviously tune into a few of JD's videos, mate.
Yeah, I've listened to a bit of JD's stuff, and I've met him in person as well at a couple of games, and just a genuinely nice person. Got a lot of time for everyone, but kind of like you said, the perspective he has on the game is just great. He's there aren't many people that can dominate in kind of all 3 formats, or even 4 formats now if you include Bolter. And JD's just been at the top of the tree for all of them for quite a few years. So to have the mind to be able to, get your head across all different formats, their different scoring systems, their different trades, it's a special guy. So look, we understand it too. A lot of people start doing this podcasting stuff when they've got time and space, and then life commitments come up and you have to step back, but that's a part of it. But hopefully we'll see you at a game again soon, JD.
Very, very well said, mate. And Janath, you've normally got some really nice words of wisdom here, mate. Quick shout out to JD from yourself, buddy.
Yeah, I don't think I need to give JD too much wisdom. He's
You're getting a big head
great
afterwards with this, probably, JD. Yeah, come on, JD, sprinkle a little bit, mate.
but nah, he's a great bloke and like fully understand the decision that he's going through. Like life obviously takes precedence above all. And look, especially with some of the cakes that he's made, I've seen on Twitter, like, geez, I'm surprised that he even had time for Supercoach this year. But yeah, look, all the best, man. I'm sure that you'll have everything, that you'll succeed in anything that you do. And as Spills and DR said, we'd love to have you on as a guest at some point next year.
Yeah.
100%, mate. And boys, with that, we are done for the week. So in the chat, I think we said to pick a nice hour and a half, mate, and we'll be done. About 36 minutes, I can see at the moment. Pig, sorry, mate. You probably would have known this, mate, before you agreed to come onto the podcast, mate.
I did. I've seen the length of some of the other ones. I knew it was coming.
That's pretty.
You knew he was coming in for.
I told my wife she's just out watching TV. She knew I wasn't rushing back anytime soon.
Well, mate, I know I speak on behalf of all of us here, mate. It has been an absolute epic podcast having you on, mate. Meeting you a couple of months ago at the Dr. Supercoach podcast was absolutely fantastic, mate. I could just hear from the tone in your voice. You're a wonderful human, mate, a ripping lad. And I remember having a great chat with you back there, mate. It's wonderful to catch up again, not in person this time, but over the internet with technology. To have you back on, mate. One of the most requested guests we've ever had. Loving your work that you're doing for Dr. Supercoach. I've said before that I don't think they could have picked a better person to join the crew as well. I've got a lot of love for JB Pistol and Chizo there as well. So, mate, thank you so much for coming on. And I hope we haven't kept you up too late, mate. Thank you very much, my friend.
No worries at all. It's been a pleasure to be on. I've followed you guys for a while as well and listened to a bit of your stuff. So it's been really great to jump on and meet you. And I'm sure we'll do another guest appearance next year. And
lock it in.
It's great to have you. We love having you on, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, no, it's been good fun. And and I was going to say, Janath, especially, like being able to chat through some of this captain stuff. I feel like we've a lot of minds aligning in terms of what we're thinking, and like it's nice. Kind of, we're both putting out kind of really good captain stuff, but it's not a competition. It's all like we both really respect what the other one's doing, and actually use it as kind of confirmation that we've made a good call. So,
it's like
let's
complementary. It's like it's not
absolutely
100%,
but it's like
100%
meshing together really well. And look, I think today was one of my favorite chats I've had all year. Like the fact that we were able to talk it out. We were able to talk it and really justify it. The thing is, what we were really coming about it, and seeing the rankings as similar as it was, fully blinded, mind you, was a big. Imagine if we had 5 different players. Almost.
Yeah, complete opposite. A little bit awkward here with the captaincy corner.
So, you know what this was? This was like Supercoach first crack. This is what it felt like.
Supercoach first crack.
Analytics episode between 2 of the best Supercoach analysts. Let's be honest, like just crazy stuff.
100% Spills.
Good to just sit back
Pete can
absorb
be
it.
David King. I'll be Hutto.
Hutto.
Joey
can be Hutto. I'll be Joey.
King and Hutto. Yeah.
King and Joey.
I love it,
Absolutely.
boys. Well, I'll tell you what. For anyone that's watching, hopefully you have made at least 1, maybe 2 or more, 16 for some people, Supercoach Grand Finals this week. If you haven't, then it's all good. Start planning for next year. We've got, as we've already mentioned, the NBL Supercoach already open. That's just open. We've got the BBL Supercoach coming up, AFLW Fantasy, if that floats your boat. So I think that EPL's just started. I know that some people are floating around NBA fantasy drafts. I think it is as well. So plenty of fantasy
NFL
out there for you. I'll probably stick to your BBL, NBL, and probably that AFLW fantasy. Someone asked that question before. So, Janath, you normally lead us out here with some wise words of wisdom. What have you got for us this week, mate, as people enter into their Supercoach Grand Finals?
I know that we have 1 more week left, but I'm going to go back to 2018. So backstory here, I was a school captain and I had to deliver the the final speech to our year level, and this was the quote that I said. And the problem is, I'm going to have to find it now.
School captain,
but-
DR.
Are we
Why does that
surprised?
not-
it's still
This is-
captain,
Are we
really?
surprised? Come on. Oh,
Like, yeah.
All right. I'm. This is directly from that. Okay, and I think it
All
relates a lot to Supercoach. Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Live the life you've imagined. So all I'm saying is this week, regardless of the outcomes, just back yourself in. Don't overthink the decisions. As always, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, as Spillsy was
love
well
that
aware
one.
of.
We love that. Time now. It took me a few weeks to get it, but
And
we've got
we
it
hope
now.
that Pig and our captaincy helps you out. Pick a good captain, stick by the decision, and as always, we'll be here next week to listen to rants, good news, bad news. We're here for you regardless. So
Let's do it, boys.
cheers, guys. See you next week. Peace.
All the best, guys. Cheers again, Pig.
Laters.
Your own legends.